Yo. Midnight Warrior with the 1 sub. What the fuck is up? That 1 sub is noted, taken, accepted, tribute accepted. You are recognized. Welcome everyone to this twisted cult. Welcome to this prison, this mental escape plan, this labyrinth of insanity. Welcome, cult members, as we huddle around the fire at this late time at night to bask in our insanity, our fringeness. My eyes. We have a lot to talk about today, but, you know, it's all also just about that time. Confront the chairman. Except, for the first time in months, we're going to be going to X.com platform to do Confront the Chairman on X. Not on TikTok, because I'm sick of TikTok. But we need an all-out mobilization. Before I launch this X space, I need to know something from you. I need your guarantee, I need your word, and I need your bond. You have to boost the fuck out of this space. When I say boost the shit out of this space, I mean post it to 20,000 different places and just boost the shit out of the space. So it is so vast and far-reaching that it is unignorable. That is the level of boosting that we need to make this a successful Confront the Chairman, okay? And this will be successful, and we're going to start boosting it now. And we're going to let the space simmer as I immediately launch. Prepare for launch, because it's happening now, okay? And the space will be called We're calling the space something outrageous, but it will indeed, we're launching. T-minus 0 seconds to launch, okay? You guys have to boost this so far and wide that it's like you need to retweet this at least 200 times. This needs like 200 retweets alone. The impressions, it's just about impressions. You need the impressions to be up so much that this reaches the algorithm algorithmically. Get on stream and boost this on X. You don't need to join the space. I don't even want you guys to join the space. I want you guys to stay on Kick, and we will do this for the first time in a long time, okay? So we're back talking to the public on X, all of the bots on X, all of the people from Nikita Beer's X platform. So we're going to have that open. We're going to allow people to be given the time, and we're going to talk about the things that need to be talked about, okay? First of all, every single person that has a problem with me, okay, I need you to understand something very carefully. Every single person who has an issue with me is mentally retarded, jealous, sad, depressed, suicidal. You cannot defeat a force of nature. You cannot defeat something whose victory is premised under the condition that the cosmos is what it is. You can't defeat that. You can't defeat reality. You can't fight reality. Every single enemy I have is mentally retarded, and there's no way for them to confront me in any way, in any forum, in any arena, without being utterly defeated and discombobulated. All my enemies can do is cry from a distance. They can cry about me from a distance, but can they face me in any way? No, they can't. They can talk about how they're going to do X, Y, and Z, and they can do X, Y, and Z, but they can do nothing but from a distance cry about me. That's all they can do. Any confrontation with me will lead to their instant demise, whether that's through a debate, a battle of wits, if you will, or whether it is something else. Doesn't matter. You cannot defeat a force of nature. You cannot defeat a lion. It's very simple, okay? And people wonder, as I sit on my $36 million yacht, which I'm on right now. I have happened to carve out a studio on my yacht right now that looks exactly like the one that I usually stream from, or the record revelation that I've been streaming on a yacht this whole time. Okay? So as I am on my yacht, relaxing and meditating on my yacht, people want to know, where do I get the success from to have a yacht? Because most people don't have yachts. I'm one of the only people who has a yacht. People want to know, where do you get it from? Where do you get this ability to have a yacht from? How do you do this? How do you reach this level of transcendence and success? Lysenko Med School, what's up, man? First, it's 5 things people really need to understand. Put down the potato chips. Pick up the collected works of Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin, and Mao. Immediately, you're going to elevate your perspective. You're going to elevate your worldview. You're going to be able to understand how things work, and then you can be on a yacht like I am right now as we speak. Frightful, what's up? How you doing, man? Appreciate you. So I understand that these anti-communists are sad and they're jealous because they're not as successful. Well, they lack affluence because they believe lies about Stalin and Mao. If they understood the truth about Stalin and Mao, they would have the affluence that they so bitterly envy that I have that they don't. But it all boils down to jealousy and incompetence and mental retardation, of course. There is a way out. There, you can be on the yacht. You can be on your own yacht. But you have to take the pill. You have to understand that Marxism is correct. And you just have these anti-communists. So, they're just fundamentally jealous of communist success. China's success, our success. The first and second Soviet 5-year plans that super industrialized the country, they put people into space. We are just basking in success into W's all the time, and these sad, pathetic losers on the right wing. You think about the right wing. What success do they have? They had Hitler, who killed himself. They had Mussolini, who's upside down. What did they have? Nothing. Only communists are the successful ones, and these jealous, resentful, anti-communist vermin, they're just kind of quite sad. They're just jealous of us. They're jealous of our success. They're jealous of my yacht, my fleet of yachts. I have about 4 to 10 yachts on the moderate side of things, honestly. Honestly, I'm doing lowball because I don't want to make people even more jealous of me, right? But it is what it is. They're so jealous
Deji
of
added
us.
5 to the war chest.
What's up,
Islam
man?
and communism aren't compatible. Debate me on quarrel.tv, bro. I'm ready right now.
You want to debate Islam and communism. Thank you for the 5. I'm not going on your retarded fucking website. Why the fuck would I go on your retarded fucking no-thing website I've never fucking heard of in my life? Quarrel. I'm not going to go on a retarded-ass fucking website I've never heard of. I'm literally doing an X space. You want to debate me? Then get in the X space. You want to debate me? Come to my lair on the internet that no one's fucking heard of ever. Why would I do that? Why don't you just come on the X space? And if you think Islam, the question is Islam and communism compatible? I could already tell you're mentally deficient and mentally molested because you're asking that question. It's not a question of compatibility when they're the same thing. When Islam and Marxism are literally the same thing, which can be proven mathematically with precision. Why the fuck are you talking about compatibility? Compatibility is under the premise that these things are different in the first place. Rabbi Tahir with the 5. Once again, you have these illiterate, mentally retarded people who are creating these false dichotomies that they can't back up or defend in any kind of way. And it's quite sad, actually. This low vibration frequency level of thinking on these people. It's quite sad. They're at a low vibrational level, and their thoughts are radiating. People think that thoughts are things that you have, but the truth is, thoughts are actually the consequence of the vibrational state you have. Thoughts are reflections of where you're already at. You don't control your thoughts. The thoughts appear to you. The thoughts appear. I don't saying it's legit. I don't give a fuck. I don't go on websites. I don't understand. So the thoughts appear to you, and you get the thoughts that you deserve, okay? I've got these random people that are not even subscribed telling me about this website. First of all, why don't you donate 10 subs so I know you're legit? What am I even looking at you for? How could I ever recognize you? It's not compatible. Well, go on X and tell me how it's not compatible. It's not a question of compatibility when these are the same thing. How could it be a question of compatibility when we're talking about literally the same thing? We're not talking about, I agree, it's not about compatibility when Islam and Marxism are literally the same thing. If you're not ready for that pill, I don't know what to tell you. But it's so simple. When all is said and done, it's so eloquently simple. Almost gracefully simple. What is Islam? What does that even mean? Do you even know what Islam means? That's what Marxism is. Islam is it's a science. Islam is a science, okay? They called the pre-Islamic era Jahiliyyah, okay? Means ignorance. It's an absence of knowledge, an absence of science. Islam is a type of enlightenment, which is the same thing that Marxism is. These people who try to gatekeep Islam, well, what have you done to defend Islam? What are you? Your version of
Total
Islam
communist
is
victory added
having a beard
25
with
to
no
the war
mustache.
chest.
Total communist victory with the 25. That's a beautiful name. That's exactly what we're talking about. These people who are gatekeeping Islam, who only have shown for Islam that they will shave their mustache and keep their beard, as though that is the way, as though that's what's needed in the world. Why don't I promote Islam then? What are you talking about? What do you mean? Promote what? Promote what? I promote the truth. Nothing but the truth. I was on an airplane the other day, and I thought to myself, you know what actually makes me fearless? I was thinking, like, what if this plane, when I was like traveling to Russia or I travel to Turkey, I travel abroad, I'm like, what if this plane, it's in the middle of the ocean now, it just crashes and burns right now? And I think, what is the thing that makes me fearless and accept this outcome? And I'm like, it's not Islamic LARP that I get from online Islamic LARP or influencers. It's cosmos. This is cosmically ordained. This is cosmos. This is cosmos. I think of cosmos. Because ultimately everything is God's creation, right? Well, that's called the cosmos, the order of creation. And I say, this is cosmos. I say, I accept it, cosmism. And I'm like, this makes me fearless. I'll take bullets. I can be bombed. I can be blown up. And I accept cosmos. Makes me absolutely fearless. And that's all that matters, honestly. What makes you fearless is what matters. You know when I was an atheist, I'm going to talk about, I don't like talking about religion, but when you grow up and you go through atheism, it's a necessary stage, because a lot of people who talk about God, what they're actually talking about is the demiurge. They're talking about an absolute source for the guarantee of the false reality we inhibit, the false reality of Dr. Phil and George W. Bush and Barack Obama and the talking television. They're saying, well, God is the puppet behind the television. And it's like the only way you can comprehensively break from this false reality is if you first, as a stage, enter into atheism. And then you can rediscover what God actually is. But when you believe in God as an absolute source of the guarantee of the justice and the meaningfulness of the world as it presents itself to you, that's not God. That's some kind of Luciferian demiurgic front that is an idol, which you absolutely have to discard and you can't keep coping about. That's why religious people, when they're on the internet, The religious LARPers are some of the most demonic, twisted, evil people in the world. Every religious LARP community on the internet is full of sociopathic psychopaths who defend every kind of falseness and depravity and evil that you see in the world. You have to go through Marxist revolutionary atheism before you can actually appreciate God. That's the truth. That is nothing but the truth, as a matter of fact. But people are very terrified of confronting me because I'm a lion and these are hyenas who will not debate me about a single thing ever. People think, what is going on with Haas? Has Haas lost his mind? And then the answer is very simple. What's the X space? You go on INFRAHAS, at INFRAHAS. And if you have a British accent, 10 points are subtracted from you. INFRAHAS. If you have a British accent, you are subtracted of 15 points, okay? So INFRAHAS is the space. If I hear your voice and it's British, I immediately will take the content of whatever you're saying 35% less seriously. So let's go. I'm not going on your weird fucking website. Get on the X space. Let's go. I'll bring Sewell on. I'll bring Sewell, the Armenian enabler of Asiatic tyranny. The Armenian enforcer of Oriental despotism. We Oriental despots, we love to just draw from all these different ethnicities to enforce our rule. Armenians, Kurds, you name it. We just draw from all these different groups, smaller groups, Georgians, Armenians. They are the enforcers of Asiatic despotic rule. Sewell, please. Bring up these challengers to the Sultan, the Khan, the Shah and Shah. The real Shah, not the fake Shah Pahlavi who has no blood connection to the great Safavid dynasty or the Nader Shah or the Kizilbash, but comes from some random village somewhere in Iran. Just some random big-nosed guy that the British chose who is, the guy that, when the British would have people carry them on their back? The Pahlavi dynasty was one of these guys who was carrying some British guy on his back. And they were like, Cheerio, you should be the ruler of Iran. And that's where the Pahlavi dynasty came from. It has no basis in the mythos of Iran, this great, powerful story of the Safavids. They are the most cuckolded family and dynasty and lineage in the entire history of Persia. So, Sewell, is anyone requesting that I don't know about? That's the question.
There are no requests.
There's no requests.
For the Vizier. No requests.
No requests. Profound. This guy's saying me. Well, you should request on X. If you are requesting, then get on X and request. I'm requesting. See, we have these trolls who claim that they're requesting, and nobody sees that you're requesting, and you're evidently not requesting. So what are you talking about? Okay? We need to talk about the fact that 99%... Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's see if he's British or not. Go ahead. British accent or not.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, brother?
I am good.
Alhamdulillah. I'm not British. I'm American.
I see a kind of British twang in your voice. I kind of...
Nah.
You're not British.
I'm not British.
Say, Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Say that.
Peter Piper picked a pack of peppers.
Okay, now one last thing. Say armory.
Armory.
Okay, I got my eye on you, but I see something is amiss.
Nah.
Well, that's just the way you're saying nah. It's the way you're saying nah, and that whole thing. I'm just picking something up.
All right, but anyways, is Islam? You're saying that's the wrong. I'm framing the question wrong.
Are you born in America?
Yeah, I was born in America.
You have to speak proper American English with zero accent at all.
What are you talking about? I was born here.
But you're speaking, well, you do have an accent, actually. Young man, you do have an accent. And I would like you to speak as befitting of a white Anglo-Saxon gentleman, Protestant. Just as I do. Go ahead.
Is this good enough for you?
Try your best consistently. Go ahead.
Okay, well, you were saying that I'm framing the question wrong. That Islam
you got to sound like your credit score is good.
I don't sound like that?
No. Sound like your credit score is A-okay.
Is it because I'm black?
I didn't even know you were black. What are you talking about? I just know that WASPs have profoundly great credit scores. Okay, you have to sound like you are... You just came back from skiing. That's what you have to sound like. Go ahead.
Okay, well, you were saying that I framed the question wrong, that is Islam compatible with communism?
Correct.
And I forgot what your response was. You were saying it's the same thing?
It's not a matter of compatibility when Marxism and Islam are the same thing.
Okay, so the Islam, our Sharia, comes from the revelation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Okay.
But Marxism comes from Marx. So how can the two be compatible? How can a man-made system be compatible with God's system?
You claim that Marxism comes from Marx alone. Did Marx invent math or did he discover math? Answer carefully. Is math invented or is it discovered? Answer carefully.
Oh shoot, wait, hold on. Is math invented or discovered? It is discovered.
Correct. You were on thin ice, because had you said it was invented, you would have committed an egregious crime against Islam. So, why is Marxism any different? Marx discovered Marxism, what we call Marxism. He discovered it. He did not invent it. Case dismissed.
Okay. Oh, no. Well, what do you have to say about the ownership of private property in Islam? Islam
does not exist in Islam at all.
No?
Not at all. Not even 1%.
No.
Do not say no in that tone. You have to speak as though you were just coming from a snowboarding club. Speak with composure. I will not tolerate these loud noises of no's. Go ahead.
Okay, I know for how can you say there's no private there's no private ownership in
Islam? There is none.
But did the Prophet ﷺ not own the land? Did he not own the house? Nah.
Not land. Land ownership privately is an extremely Aryan and exceptional institution in the history of human civilization. For the grand majority of human history and civilization, there was no such thing as the private ownership of land. It was impossible and unthinkable, especially Islam, which said all the land becomes to God is under the custodianship of the sovereign on earth. The Khalifa owned all the land. Now, certain people could be given the rights to tend to the land, but they did not own it. They could not freely alienate the land and buy and sell it as they pleased and felt. So it is not private property as an institution. The Quran refers to possessions and property as that which you can own and possess in your right hand, meaning something that you are using. Private property is a political and civilizational institution which carves out a piece of space, whether it is a tangible, movable object or an immovable piece of land, and said, I have absolute sovereign jurisdiction and ownership over this thing in abstraction, from its use and from the various embedded relations within which it is contextually existent within a wider totality and division of labor. Islam does not give a stamp to that. Greek law permitted private property. Roman law, permitted private property. Later, feudal law, permitted private property. What all of these things had in common was a contractual understanding of sovereignty and statehood, where the state would not be the absolute sovereign, but would rather negotiate its sovereignty with other rights claimants whose terms and conditions of being part of the state were enumerated in some constitution or some charter, which did not give one single authority supreme authority. Okay? So it was basically oligarchical rule. There's no such thing as private property in Islam. There's none. There is strictly enumerated terms and conditions about what is within your right to possess based on what you're actually using, what's relevant to how you're actually living and using life. There's no right to just own something because you put your fucking name on it and it's yours. That doesn't exist in Islam. You own what's in your right hand. That's what they literally call it, what you possess with your right hand, what you have the capacity to maintain, to attend to actually use, to care about, to invest effort into. That's not the same as private property. Private property is an institution that carves out abstract space and says this is your private belonging. But all belongs to Allah in Islam. Alhamdulillah, as Lenin would say.
Lenin would say, Alhamdulillah.
Allah alone owns everything. No one owns anything, not even a toothbrush. You may use the toothbrush to brush your teeth. You may have it in your right hand. Another person cannot come and steal it out of your hand. So yes, it's yours to use, to have as your dignity. But ultimately, it belongs to Allah, not you. You don't own the toothbrush as a private property. Everything, even the innermost privacy of your being, belongs to Allah alone. What do you own? How vain and foolish to think that Islam permits private property. How foolish! What do you own? Tell me what in the cosmos and all of Allah's creation belongs to you. That you own. That has your name on it.
Okay, I have another objective.
Are you God? Are you God?
I have more
Are
objections.
you God?
Though. No.
Do you think you're God?
No.
Then wallahi, join the Communist Party right now.
No, I haven't been convinced that communism is compatible or the same as Islam. I have more questions.
So you think you're God? Interesting.
No, what? No,
So you
I don't
believe
think
you
I'm
are God?
No.
You do believe you are God.
No. Okay, so what about this? In communism, aren't the communist societies traditionally atheist and materialist? But in Islam,
Wallahi,
God is the only sovereign in Islam, in the world.
Communist atheism is far closer on the path to reaching the Emerald Mountain of Islamic revelation and devotion to Allah than the so-called Islamic societies and their corrupt, filthy pig rulers of swine. Atheist communism is absence of idols. They have turned Allah into an idol that is an excuse for all their debauchery, filth, and hypocrisy. When Allah is so grand, so unthinkable, so unfathomable, so sublime, that only in the moment of feeling the absence of Allah can you actually appreciate Him in His greatness and in His might. Bless the atheism of communism, for it alone opens the space by which a true devotion and appreciation of Allah is now possible. Versus the false religious hypocrites who speak of God, who speak of Allah, who they turn into an idol. Even the very absence of Allah is the proof of His presence. That is why Sheikh Marx, Sheikh Engels, Sheikh Lenin, Sheikh Stalin, Sheikh Mao Zedong are far closer to Allah, far closer in their hearts to Allah than all of these so-called Muslims who have betrayed Palestine.
Okay, but how can somebody who denies the lordship of Allah be closer to Allah than
How
someone
could
who...
they deny that to which they have never been introduced? How could they
You
deny
don't
that?
think much about Islam?
They already were Muslim, they didn't know it. They were never
No.
introduced. They were introduced in Central Asia. You had these corrupt warlords and chiefs who carried over these pagan practices from the pre-Islamic world that were unjust, plainly unjust and immoral.
Okay, well, what about okay, well, Marxism isn't the whole thing with communism like you have a struggle between the different classes, and communism like seeks to abolish the different classes, right? The like the wealth inequality.
Of course,
But
classes
Islam-
are shirk, they're haram.
No.
No
In Islam,
man
you
can
have-
be divided from another man on the basis of anything except what God has bestowed them. Who is man to divide themselves into the class, I'm above you, you're below me? That's the Hindu caste system. You are Hindu.
No, I'm not talking
You are
about like
Hindu.
I'm talking about wealth.
You are
I'm not talking about
Hindu.
like castes.
You are Hindu.
I'm talking about like class inequality, like wealth. I'm not talking about like caste systems.
No, class means... That's not class, doesn't mean just differences in wealth. Class is the division, the fitna within the society, where some rule over the others based on what? Based on owning what belongs to Allah alone. They commit war against Allah. And Allah declared war against them. Why? Because He declares war against the greatest sin, riba. The only thing He declared war on. Well, the class, all the classes, the ruling classes of history, were based on riba, usury. That's where private property comes from. And Allah declares war upon this.
Nah, wait, hold on.
Yes, consult your minions, consult your helpers. You need help from these people to confront one as I, a true Sufi sheikh, a true
Nah, it's
Sufi
me,
master
it's-
as I.
It's just me. Wait, hold on. Nah, 'cause I have a communist in the room right now. He's not helping me out. I'm trying to. I want to see the. Hold on.
He's not going to help you because he's probably not a real communist. Only I am.
All right. Does communism? Does it ban riba? Does it ban interest? Like a complete
It
ban of.
wipes it and annihilates it from the face of Mother Earth. It is the greatest weapon for the annihilation of this evil.
Okay, well, how can? Nah, wait, hold on. Okay, so Marx came from a completely materialist worldview. He's not. Coming
Islam
from a
is
spiritual-
dialectical materialism.
How?
Because idealism is the idol worship of the ideality from the Greeks who were raping children.
I don't know what that means.
Plato raped children. Aristotle raped children. That's who you're drawing from? Let me explain something to you and bomb you with a nuclear bomb. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Your whole world will blow up in flames, a nuclear bomb.
Okay.
Is Allah real or is Allah an idea?
Allah is real.
So when you have a thought and you say this thought is the idea, what is more real? The thing in your thought or Allah, who is the the supreme reality of all reality?
Allah.
How dare
Allah.
you divide from the reality of Allah and His creation and His being something called the ideal and the ideal realm and claim this is Islam, that it's all this ideal realm? No, Islam is materialist.
You say Islam is materialist?
Yes.
No, okay, but communism is like 100% materialist.
Islam is 5,000,000% materialist.
What about the afterlife? What about our spiritual health? What about the soul, which is It's intangible. You can't
think
grab the soul.
You think in reference to matters as the soul and the unseen is what you mean, the unseen. You think Islam says the unseen is thought and ideality? It's just some shit and it's just a thought? Or are you saying it's God's thought? How dare you divide from God his faculties and say this is God's brain and his thought? No, it's the being. It's Allah's being, his reality. Who are you to say this is only God's thought? And there's Allah is the supreme reality in which nothing can be compared to him. You cannot divide Allah into different... You can't turn him into a body where there's a head and there's a body. He's the supreme reality, the ultimate, the absolute.
No, I'm saying. Okay. okay. Moving on. And you mentioned what's it called? What your right hand possesses. In Islam, you're allowed to take captives of war. Do you think Marx would be aligned with that, knowing his goal was to eradicate class?
Yes.
How?
Because at the time, based on the context, when you were going to war with people and you destroy them, you have two options. You leave them there, they probably will die, or they will take up arms and fight with you again. So that was the reality of the time, that all wars that existed at that time. And what did the Islam say about captives? It was all something that, relatively speaking, was humane and was just, relatively speaking, for the time they lived in. So we live in a world, alhamdulillah, where this is no longer something we consider necessary. But even so, that's not true. So for example, in a war, even today, when it's Soviet Union versus Nazi Germany, or let's say it's the Iraqi, this is not an asymmetrical war. Let's say it's America versus Iran, and America does a ground invasion. So Iran defeats America in a battle, okay? And the soldiers surrender on America's side. Iran's going to take those soldiers and quarantine them in a place and take them prisoner as prisoners of war. So what's the difference?
Wait, say that again, the last part?
How is it different than prisoners of war? Communists took prisoners of war.
Okay. I guess that's okay. All right. What about like what about the general underpinning? Like, okay, so Islam has a system for like the economy, by the way. Like, it has a system for... Islam has this any way in humans can organize themselves. Islam has a system for. And
no.
No? How? What do you mean no?
Islam does not organize every facet of an economic system. Islam establishes justice versus injustice, specifically during the time of the Prophet.
So.
What is permitted and what is normal versus what is not, based on what actually made sense to people at that time. Nowhere does it say that in a society with an extreme degree of socialization, huge development of the productive forces, that, for example, it would be permissible for something like electricity or energy or running water to be owned privately. Because we know in Islamic societies, the infrastructure was all owned by the sovereign. So whether it was the Khalifa or it was the Sultan or anything else, they always owned the common works, the public works. They owned the science and research and development. And this was all owned and planned in the hands of the state. So the idea that in our modern society, when the means of production have reached such a social level beyond the household of what you can hold with your right hand, and to the level of a common mode of production, that Islam would say, no, it's okay for this to be owned privately. That's nonsense. Makes no sense historically.
Wait, but you mentioned how Islam, like, you said it didn't have a system, and then you started to talk about how, like, the resources, like, it would be given, like, how much am I trying to say?
It
Like,
didn't
Islam
need to
has-
invent the system from scratch because there was already norms and expectations for how civilization should function and work. But what Islam did is it clarified what are the tendencies that lead to the corruption of civilizations and what are the things that keep them on the right track. So it did not create something from scratch, is what I'm trying to say. It clarified reality as it already existed. That's what it means to bring justice.
Okay, but the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ is the guidance for humanity and for all times.
Okay.
So what we do? What we
to
do
insult the prophet
as
by this
21st
interpretation, to interpret guidance as direct, insults the prophet because you're saying the prophet anticipated smartphones. And you have to be so direct in terms of his guidance that you ignore the differences of technology and context and history. And you just say one for one. When he mentions a camel, he's really talking about a camel. That's nonsense. You have to distill the essence of what he's saying, the meaning of what he's saying. That's why only the Sufis can understand the Quran. No one in Saudi Arabia can understand the Quran since Abdul Wahhab. He can't understand that because they're reading it in a way that is devoid of actual exegesis and interpretation. They just taking it at face value. They don't understand the hidden secrets, the hidden meaning, the subtext. They have no comprehension of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Wahhabi, but like that, wouldn't that just align with what I'm saying? That
No.
the Prophet ﷺ, it wouldn't align with what I'm
No.
saying. But it's a guidance for all times. If you said the Prophet ﷺ, he's talking about a camel. He's not just talking about a camel. Maybe he's talking about all means of transportation.
Okay. So how do you interpret that? Who's going to interpret that?
Well, we
Who
interpret
should
it with
interpret that?
people who are learned, people who are capable of interpreting it.
Who?
I
The
mean,
chosen people?
the people who Allah
The
chose to
chosen
interpret.
people? Is this what you... The chosen people? What chosen people? Is there a chosen people in Islam? Show me.
The people of knowledge.
Also, Saudi Arabia.
No, I just said I'm not a Wahhabi.
Okay. Well, any man can have knowledge. Any man can acquire knowledge. If he so seeks it. And we have to make the case to our fellow man based on our humanity, which God created us as men and as women, with humanity, with an ability to recognize each other on the basis of a common existence, of a common essence.
Okay, well, the point I'm making is that obviously you won't have a direct ruling for every single facet of the human experience, right? But the goal of scholarship today is to use the Quran.
Islam says it will be clear to you based on your heart, not based on what some guy says. On your heart, you will know truth from false.
So people who look into the Islamic tradition and they look at the evidences, they're going to be able to come to a consensus on what a ruling should be, partaking
consensus. What does that mean? So a bunch of people who can be corrupt agree with each other. So what? Why should I care?
So basically what you're saying is that Allah just left us like just to come up with our own economic system.
To fight, yes, he left us to fight.
Well,
he left us. He gave us the guidance and he leaves it upon us to live, to fight, to find the truth based on what he has given. And he trusts us that we're going to sort it out. He does never in Islam, they said, I'm going to give you something. You can use an excuse to avoid the pain, the jihad, the struggle of understanding. They never said that. That's what the hypocrites want you to think. That you can just say, oh, it's just whatever. And no, you may as well be an atheist. You may as well, in that sense. Because God is not giving you crotchets. He's not giving you a crutch. He's giving you guidance. If you don't walk on your 2 feet, the guidance means nothing. You don't get to excuse yourself from the struggle of history, from the struggle of society, from the justice, the injustice that exists in the world. Where in the Quran does it say Palestine is in need of liberation right now? You need to see what's going on in the world and understand it. And all the righteous people in the world do understand it. Just as the Chinese understood Mao Zedong, and just as the Russians understood Lenin.
Nah, I don't know. I mean, okay, you have your perspective. Okay, last question. What about business ownership? Is it not different in communism and Islam?
What are you talking about? Islam did not live in a society where the forces of production have developed to such an extent that the socialization of labor and the unity of the division of labor could take the form of information technology. Well, it can now. So that's socialism, that's communism. Business then is about entrepreneurship, people coming together to enterprise together. That has nothing to do with private property. That has to do with how much is it anticipated the outcome of economic association. Nowhere does that have to imply private property at all.
You know, I think
It's
we should
all
debate
about a
on
knowledge issue. What can be anticipated and what cannot be anticipated, and it requires more data.
I think we should debate on Coral TV.
I'm not going to any TV. I don't watch the television.
No, Coral.tv.
I don't give a fuck.
It's Muslim owned.
I don't trust that shit at all. For all I know, UAE owns that shit, or Saudi Arabia owns that shit.
No.
Or ISIS owns it. How the fuck would I know? What the fuck does that mean? It's Muslim owned.
All right, man. I don't know. No, just hop on real quick with me.
I'm not hopping on shit.
No, I want to test out the functionality of it.
I'm not doing none of that. I'm not doing none of that shit.
No, you don't do live debates. You don't want to debate.
I'm doing a live debate right now.
Nah, let me just okay.
Yeah, somebody's in the background. Sort your shit.
You're on.
I'm not dealing with none of that. I'm bringing Zoran on DSA Resident Gen Alpha from the Democratic Socialists of America. Why do you reject the message of Allah? Go ahead. I think they stopped requesting, so now I have to bring on Zoran. Go ahead, Zoran.
Assalamu alaikum, akhi.
Alaikum assalam.
So I think your claim that Islam is pro-communism is bullshit.
I didn't say it's pro-communism. I said it is Marxism.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit.
Well, you can use soap to cleanse your foul mouth and then return with an argument.
I have an argument.
Make it.
So whenever there was a war, the Prophet allocated to himself 20% of the war spoils.
Okay.
So he didn't equate himself with the remainder of the army.
And what did the Prophet do with his spoil? As the sovereign leader, as the representative of the centralized authority.
He bought lands. You know, the land that...
What did he do with it?
Huh?
He used it for the public because he was the sovereign ruler.
No,
this
it
is
was
just
his land, and he gave it to his...
No, it's about the allocation of resources based on a principle of the division of labor. So, for example, if you take up a map and you plan beforehand the exact division, that's still planned economics.
So he owned this land, and this land went to his daughters after his death. So it wasn't a property of the Ummah.
He was the ruler.
Yes.
He was the sovereign. So that's like saying the caliph or the sultan owns it.
Yes. So after his death, it didn't go to the Ummah or didn't go to the state. It went to his kids.
And that's what you're missing, though. You see, you messed up walking into this talking to a Shia. Hey, yeah. You just messed up. You had no idea who you were talking to. Someone who believes Ahlul Bayt was the rightful successor of the Prophet. Speechless.
So Quran chapter 16 verse 71 says Allah has favored some of you over others in provision.
So what?
And the tafsir of this verse
So
means
what?
that Allah has made people into different classes based on wealth.
Based on no classes are mentioned. Based on the words of Sheikh Friedrich Engels and Karl Marx, they said each person, equality is a bourgeois principle because men are endowed with different abilities and skills and qualities and character and habit. The
So you
notion
believe
that
that wealth,
everyone is the same is not communism. The phrase that Marx cites from paraphrasing the Bible from Thomas Munzer, Sheikh Thomas Munzer, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. Some are provisioned with more because their needs are more.
so you think wealth should be divided based on needs or quality,
From
or
each according to their ability, to each according to their need.
okay? So I'm gonna go past the point of the war spoils, like the money, because you can argue, oh, he represented the state. But one more thing was the concubines, the females that were captured. Even those were not distributed equally. So
You
the
are
prophet.
completely neglecting the historical context, and therefore there is no way for you to meaningfully speak of such things. The notion that women were considered a form of property is a perversion, a perverse understanding of the complex sociology of the world predating the Middle Ages, where wars led to the devastation of people's form of subsistence, and it led to a devastation of the ability for people to be taken care of, because there was no such thing as centralized modern infrastructure or centralized institutions that attended to people in a universal way. People were very much embedded in their familial, parochial, household context. So to meaningfully speak of such things is impossible.
But there's like verses in
especially as the
hadiths
way you're
that
trying to
says
angle it.
the prophet had sex with those female captures, and the female captures have no right to reject like request bed with her owner. So they were merely for sex, right?
You're speaking some ISIS gibberish nonsense.
No, bro, it's literally in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. It's not ISIS.
Where?
Come on.
Where? The hadith?
In Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, like Prophet Muhammad had. Yes.
Yeah, you can back off a little bit, okay? You need to back off a little bit. Because I don't buy this nonsense. This is some nonsense ISIS stuff to me.
Bro, it's literally Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih
And
Muslim.
I follow the Quran.
So you think there's no verses in the Quran that talks
No.
about the concubines?
That it's you should valorize just raping women? No, I don't think it is.
There are Quran verses about concubines, bro.
Concubinage, as you're misrepresenting, you're saying all concubinage is kidnapping women and raping them. That's not what concubinage meant in the general sense.
I don't care about what you name it, but
You're not doing an analysis based on the sociology of care and subsistence and how that worked. You are making it seem like concubinage was about chattel slavery, and it wasn't.
I don't care what you name it. I mean, in practice, those concubines were taken against their will by the winner army, and they were divided among the winner army men, not equally, based on the Prophet had the most, and then the Sahaba had more than the regular warriors, and then those concubines, it's written explicitly in the hadith that they have no right to reject a call to bed to the owner.
First of all, this is what's disgusting about you Wahhabi Salafi types. You abstract something violently out of the context, such such that you depict something filthy, disgusting, and grotesque to any normal, sensible person. The notion of normalizing out of context, just bluntly dropping us this idea of defeating an enemy army, then taking the women into... You're misrepresenting the actual context of what all this stuff actually meant. In actual context, wars devastated people's means of subsistence and their household economy. So the question wasn't, oh, how are we going to simply divide all of these prizes among people? It was a question of how do you deal with the social devastation and the aftermath of something like that. And according our modern sensibilities have no way of properly understanding that. And your insensitivity to that vast chasm of context shows me that you are precisely the type that corrupts Islam to a point that makes it something hideous and filthy to a normal person.
Okay, so where do you get like your moral principle from if you reject hadiths regarding the concubines? Like you just
The
make
notion
it
that
based
we
on
get our
today's
morals
morality?
from hadiths rather than Allah himself is paganism and idolatry. We don't get
Hadith
our...
comes from the Prophet, and the Prophet
We
speaks from
don't,
Allah.
allegedly they do. Not all of them. There's not agreement about all of them, okay? Shias and Sunnis don't agree about all of them. So I don't need to hear this. Second
Are
of
you
all,
Shia or Sunni, by the way?
Shia,
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
exactly. And what are y'all
Yeah.
doing about Palestine, by the way? Oh, we're silent now. Oh, now we're silent.
Yeah,
How are
we're,
you
we're,
fighting
we're,
Israel?
we're not doing anything, but
Who's
at least
fighting
we're not
Israel?
polytheist.
Who's fighting
We don't do
Israel?
shirk. We don't do shirk.
Okay,
it's
but you
better
just
not
get
to
dominated
defend.
and raped by Israel and the
Yes,
colonial powers?
it's better not
We are
to.
not doing shirk, but we're getting raped by Israel and the colonial powers, so it's okay.
Yes, in the
Why
eyes
would
of
anyone
Allah,
want to
someone
be
who
Muslim
doesn't stand
anymore?
for Palestine
Let me
but
bomb you with
does
something.
tawheed and doesn't do
bomb you
shirk
with
is
something.
better
Let
than
me bomb you
a
with something.
polytheist who's standing for Palestine. This
Let me
is
bomb
what
you
the
with
Quran
something
says.
then. Now let me bomb you with something. Why should anyone be a Muslim if these are the most true Muslims? If they're cowards? Why would anyone want to be a Muslim then? Why should we follow Islam if you're not able to attend to the basic human dimension of our existence, our dignity, what we know in our hearts to be right from what's wrong? If this is Islam for you, why should anyone be a Muslim in the first place? How did the Prophet even get followers? You think he was tricking people with magic tricks? He was telling them what they already knew was right and wrong within their heart. They followed him because he was a noble man. He was a good man, and they could see that. He was bringing justice. That's why they followed him. If you're not doing that, nobody gives a fuck if you're talking about polytheism. Nobody gives a shit. You're not delivering on the humanity. And even in Islam, Allah made us first, and then he gave us the guidance. Well, he made us. He endowed us with moral clarity. He gave us a basic dignity where we know right, we know wrong intuitively in our hearts, in the heart. You understand? If you are failing to do right by that, what right? What is your theology even based on? Who gives a fuck if the people who are righteous in this world evidently are quote unquote polytheists doing shirk? Isn't that an argument in favor of polytheism rather than Islam? You're making a case against Islam when you say that. Don't pretend the ball is in the court of these monkeys with beards and no mustaches in Saudi Arabia who feel like they can gatekeep the entirety of this religion that's lasted over 1,000 years. The ball is in the court upon he who delivers in this world the righteousness, the truth, the nobility, the humanity. Not clerics who turn it into a Talmudic dead letter, a dead letter. If Allah is real, he gave us life. He gave us bones. He gave us a gut feeling in our stomach. He didn't give us a dead letter for gatekeeping chosen people to interpret based on some unflexible, rigid dogma that is divorced from the reality itself that our hearts are connected to in real time that are beating. What kind of Islam are you even selling?
So I want to flag the systematic difference between you and me. You get your morality based on
and you get it from Discord
on communism, and I get it from Quran and Sunnah.
You get it from Discord. You get it from Saudi Arabia madrasas, from Aramco oil revenues, and I get it from my heart, from my bones.
Okay, so regarding the question that why should people become Muslim, the Quran tells us, وَمَا خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So Allah has created us to worship Him. This is the first
Yes.
cause
So are
of
you
us to.
worshiping God by sitting on your fucking ass and doing jack shit to stand up to Israel?
I
Is that
can't
what
do
it
anything
looks
to
like
them.
worship
I
God?
can't. I'm not a ruler. I'm not a king.
Oh, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's just I'm not going to do any self-criticism and address the spiritual and moral vacuum inside of my heart that makes me absolutely culpable in fucking what? 1 billion people not doing a fucking thing to stand up to Israel. Fuck are you even talking about? It's not me. It's not me. How many people fucking say that? But why is it that the Shia are fighting? Why is Iran and its allies fighting? Why is Hezbollah
Well,
fighting?
it happened that they are
Why?
fighting, and
Why?
we are not. It
Why?
just happened
Why?
that the
Why?
circumstances
Just
are
happened.
like that.
Just happened. Just happened. But you can't
Yes.
explain it.
I wish I can do something, but I can't. But I still cannot
I
tell
wish
you
I
that
can't.
a polytheist,
Maybe you should
as a
reflect.
person
Maybe
who
if there was
worship
more
Ali,
reflection. Maybe if there was more reflection, you could understand why that is. How about you reflect first? Because one is following the Zulfiqar, the sword that splits the hypocrites in two, that exposes the appearance from the essence, that says it's not enough to LARP and sit and say, I have the truth because I read some books. You have to show on this earth what the truth is through your deeds, not just through your fucking words.
okay, I wanna
That up in
flag.
your pipe and smoke it.
Okay, I wanna flag one more verse because I know some Muslims
Here we
might be
go with the
misguided by
Talmudism. Here we
your
go with the
words. That
Talmudism.
the Quran says, "إن الله لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك." So the only sin that Allah won't forgive is shirk. It's not to stand to Palestine.
Okay.
You can
And
neglect Palestinians
I
and
accuse you of shirk
how?
because your Wahhabi Saudi rulers are your gods. They are God for you.
I'm not even Wahhabi.
I don't
I'm
give
just
a fuck.
I'm just a
Whatever
Muslim, bro.
fucking UAE nonsense gibberish you get your filth from is your God. And that's shirk.
I
God
think
bless the Sufis. God bless the standard, real traditional Sunnis. And God bless the Shia, whatever the fuck you are. I don't
So
have
do you
any
think
brotherhood
in
with
the
you.
eyes of Allah?
I have
So
no
do you think in
brotherhood
the
with
eyes
you.
of Allah, a Christian who fight for Palestine is better than a Muslim who's not?
Yes! Yes!
How?
1
How?
million%! And 1,000,000%!
A Christian is a
1
mushrik. How
million
can
percent, 1,000 million, 10 trillion%. Because you are munafiq. With Zulfiqar, I expose you. Because the Christian follows Islam in his deed. And the Muslim who does nothing is his word. He's a hypocrite. Nothing is worse than a fucking hypocrite. The hypocrite is worse. The one who's righteous in their actions and in their deeds is the one who I could say is my brother, not the hypocrite. I hate the hypocrite. The hypocrite is the enemy of Zulfiqar. Zulfiqar was made for the hypocrites. It's the exposes the hypocrites.
Okay, so you think a Christian who's pro-Palestine and fighting for Palestine can enter Jannah, but a Muslim who doesn't is
He
going
will
to hell?
burn and be tortured in hell for eternity, and the Christian will be in paradise.
Okay, is this what your Shia book says?
This is what my Shia truth, my common sense, my intuition says. And I will run with that instead of your no mustache and beard gatekeeping from Saudi Arabia.
And that's why you guys losing the war, right?
We'll see who wins and we'll see who loses. But only we're fighting. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Is it not?
So you don't think what's happening to you,
You
the
can't
major
lose if
attacks
you
in
don't
Lebanon,
fight.
is
I
a
guess-
humiliation
I
from
guess if you're
Allah
already conquered,
for your
you can't-
shirk?
I guess if you've already been defeated and conquered, you can't lose. So you got that. You're calling the veneration of Ahlul Bayt and you're calling this shirk. Okay, well, your veneration of your Discord admins is shirk. Okay?
Okay. I have one more question.
Okay?
Do you view Ali and Al Hussein as a deity, as a demigod,
No,
or do
no
you?
one says that. No, but that's what you say. Nobody says that.
But it's not in your books.
So what? Why would we say that? Why would we
So you
say
don't.
that?
So don't you say when you pray, you say Ya Ali, Ya Hussein?
Okay, because
So
they're
you
heroes.
you
Because
call
they're
it for the.
heroes. Because they're exemplary heroes. Because they show us what it means to actually follow God. That's the difference.
Okay, I say
Because
this
we
by
have to
Allah.
remember the people who actually show us what it means to follow God. Otherwise, we're just going to listen to these disgusting perverts who have books in their lap, who are telling us something because, well, I'm a learned man. I know the truth.
Okay, by Allah.
Those are glasses wearers. You
Yes,
say, I
and
have the
and
truth because I have some books. That means I have the truth. Okay. You're
well,
not showing us the
I
truth.
at least I have a reference. I have a
I
principle.
can
I have
look at the
books.
book. I can look at the paper. I'm going to look at the sword, not the paper. I'm going to look at the Zulfiqar, the one who fights for justice on earth, who delivers truth and justice on earth, not the person with parchment who's taking it out of context. Someone who has
And
a
do you-
piece of paper they take out of context. What does the paper mean? It means to communicate something. Means to say something. You're treating the parchment as an idol. You're not even reading it. You don't even care what it says.
Okay, let's put the books aside. Do you think what happened to Ahl al-Bayt and what happened to the Iranians and what happened to Hezbollah, it's not a humiliation from Allah? Like the way Hassan Nasrallah died, the way Khomeini died, the way Hussein died. Don't you think like this is some sort of humiliation from Allah?
He says the massacre of the Prophet's family was a humiliation inflicted by Allah. This is what this guy is saying.
Because Hussein went against the Caliphate.
In the Ottoman Turkey, they would have beheaded you for saying that. In the Ottoman Caliphate, they would have beheaded you for such a filthy thing to say. They would have beheaded
You don't think Imam Hussein was a Khariji, was against the ruler, the Caliphate, Yazid ibn Muawiyah?
Is this real? This has got to be an Israeli.
Not an Israeli. Hussein is not a Sahabi
Even the real traditional Sunnis don't defend Yazid. This is incredible.
No, we do defend it. We name our people Yazid. There are Yazid kids in Saudi and in Morocco and in
Saudi
Egypt.
Arabia. I know in Saudi Arabia where they're a descendant of the Zionists in Saudi Arabia.
And even in Egypt, in Morocco, we name Yazid.
Okay, in Morocco, which is an Israeli puppet, doesn't surprise me. And in Egypt, you have to show me some references because that would be indeed surprising if it was common, even in former Fatimid Egypt.
Yes, we do. We have Yazids and we have Muawiyah. Muawiyah is not as common as Yazid, by the way, which is strange.
That's the greatest part. I'm just going to let you speak and speak for yourself. And everyone can see for themselves. He's talking about the family of the Prophet, and he's saying Allah humiliated them. He's saying every time there's injustice on earth, it's because Allah was humiliating you. So when the Europeans and the Israelis humiliated the Arab and humiliated the Muslims of the world, it's because Allah is on their side. So you think Netanyahu is Allah's favored? You sound lot like a Zionist.
Maybe Allah has sent them to humiliate us because we have neglected Islam and we have abandoned Tawheed.
The people of Gaza are sent. You're saying Netanyahu's sent by God. That's what you're saying.
So is what Netanyahu did against the will of God, or did God had a will that for this to happen?
He's literally like a.
I'm not saying that.
You are Zionist. You believe there's the chosen people. That's it. End of story. Those who reach fleeting worldly success on the basis of injustice, well, that's because what God wanted. That actually means it's good. And if you're suffering from injustice, well, you deserved it because God humiliated you. That's what you're saying. That's what you believe.
Yes, and by the end of the Abbasid Caliphate, Muslims has abandoned Islam and they started to translate Greek philosophy and abandon the deen. And Allah sent the Mongols to humiliate them.
So go back in a time machine and go live in this golden age. That's all I could tell you, because you're not faring well in the age we live in, as it stands.
Okay, and you can't even answer why Allah is not like did you see the attacks in Lebanon, the major attacks?
I pity you for the filth and misery inside of your corrupted heart. I just pity you. What else can I tell you? You have a miserable worldview, a miserable existence, a hateful, ugly one. You cannot see how the fighting of injustice and the overcoming of evil and injustice is part of the plan of Allah. that this is why
Your
he gave us
evil
free
is
will.
not my evil. My evil is not my
Yeah,
evil.
because
My
you're a
evil is
fucking
shirk. Your
Satanist.
evil is
This
just
guy's a
Israel.
Satanist.
Israel
This
is
is
the
a
source of all evil.
Satanist.
That's for me the source
Satanist.
of all evil is shirk, not Israel. I don't
Okay.
like Israel.
He's defending Israel now.
I'm
Thanks
not
for
I'm not
thank
defending
you,
them.
sir.
My enemy,
You spoke your piece. You said what you had to say. He mocks the family of the prophet. He glorifies their murder, their massacre, which even most Sunnis recognize was a grave injustice. So much so that the last leader of the Ottoman state, Abdul Hamid, the last real one that is, created reliefs in devotion to Ahlul Bayt in Hagia Sophia. You can see the names of Hussein and Hassan and Ali there. And in the armies of the Ottomans, they would venerate Ali and the Zulfiqar, and this was real Islam, Sunni or Shia. That was real traditional Islam. But the Wahhabis have come and they're open Satanists. They worship Satan. Did you guys believe what you just fucking saw? This is what Islam is. When I say this is why I don't care if I get called a heretic, because this is the state genuinely of Islam in the world. This guy's literally saying that God sent Netanyahu to punish, and then Netanyahu is actually fulfilling the will of God directly. And the Palestinians deserve what happened to them because they deserved it. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's saying that when Israel is inflicting its terror against Lebanon, all the injustice they inflict, well, actually, it's because you deserved it, because you were in the wrong. And he celebrates and glorifies it. Nobody is doing more damage to Islam in the world than such people. You have to think about that. Like, why would anyone want to be Muslim if this guy's going to be the representative of Islam? Wouldn't it be better to convert to something else? I've never, for example, even the depravity, ortho-LARPers, there's some disgusting LARPers in the Orthodox Christian community that we have, the online one, that we have quarreled with, but they've never reached this evil. I've never seen them go this far in their fucking evil, because you take those people who I consider hypocrites on the internet, but if I ask them, is Israel the devil and are they satanic and are the Palestinian children innocent, they'll say, well, yeah, of course they are. So they still have some humanity. As much as they lie and as much as they slander us, there's still something human there. I mean, the only thing that comes close to this level of evil in Christianity are the evangelicals, right? Only the no other Christian sect or denomination ever goes this far in their hideous evil than what you just fucking heard from that guy. Fucking crazy. Go ahead, Abu Ibrahim.
Hey, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
I did want to give my 2 cents on what I just heard. I'm as shocked as you were about, especially the part about the humiliation of Ahl al-Bayt, calling Hussein alayhi salam not a Sahabi.
I think that guy was Mossad. I think he was genuinely.
I genuinely have some real concerns about that guy. May Allah guide him. In any case, a lot of what he repeated, before I get into what I wanted to talk about, a lot of what he repeated in the sense of like fatalism, the lack of centering of justice, these are common ills among Muslims today. I'm a Muslim content creator and speaker, so I guess you can consider myself more of the orthodox variety in any case. But I don't really. This is part of what I'm trying to change about how Muslims think is there needs to be a kind of agency about justice and about changing our situation from an Islamic perspective. And from an Islamic perspective is the operative word. And I did come to you because of your posts about Marxism being Islam, and I did want to have a conversation about that. I'll be honest. I did not read or watch too much about you to see how you're making that connection. So I'll start with my basic position, which is that Marxism, being both an economic prescription for society and being a kind of worldview which sees history as driven by class conflict, I do not see that being consistent with Islam, neither in its legal prescriptions. Islam allows private property. Islam is not about the total redistribution of wealth, nor in its worldview.
Well, these are arguments I've already addressed in the previous conversation, so we're going to have to avoid the redundancy since we've all been listening.
Well, I think I can represent this argument perhaps better than some of the others. So if you could maybe catch me up quickly and we can leave off from there.
No, actually, I think that you're not informed enough. You're gonna have to rewind in the video and go see what I said, because these are straw mans from the beginning, And it's as simple as that, I just am weary of having to repeat myself. Go ahead. Well, this is the same guy about Ukraine who's obsessed with Ukraine. So this person is Jesse, who's claiming to be an ACP commissar. There's no commissars in the ACP. So this is going to be a troll who's trying to misrepresent us. So I'll let them do that, though. Go ahead. Give it their best shot. It's not TikTok, so I can't get banned for what other people say here, right? So go ahead.
Curse you. You ran from Abu Ibrahim, you zindiq. May Allah curse you. May Allah curse the axis of Jews.
You want to just cry and curse me? Like I give a fuck? You fucking LARPer.
Shut the fuck up. May Allah curse you, you fucking
May you
kafir.
shut the fuck up and get a fucking job, you bitch. Fucking cursing me like I give a shit. I mean, you're being amateur. You're saying, Islam doesn't agree with equal wealth distribution. Where in the writings of Karl Marx or Engels or any Marxist do they say equal wealth distribution? One time. They say, Islam doesn't ban private property. Yes, it does. In the Greco-Roman legal jurisprudential sense of what private property actually is that survives only through feudal Europe, that does not exist in Islam. Islam presupposes as a given that everything is owned by God ultimately and in the final sense, that there is no absolute right to alienate land, that land is ultimately owned by the sovereign. It wasn't until the Tazmat reforms in the middle of the 19th century that trading land became even legal, for example, in the Ottoman Empire, right? Usually there was usufruct rights that were granted, usually special rights for tax collectors and so on, but these were Asiatic states that centralized the means of production and prohibited the private ownership in land. In the proper legal category of what private property actually means. Usufruct rights is not private property. The specific language that's used in the Quran is what you can own with your right hand. So this is about the third time I've repeated myself, clarifying basic common sense, if you're just a little bit educated enough to debate me on this topic. Once again. Go ahead, Jesse.
Greetings, Comrade Chairman. I come to beseech the great Khan for knowledge that I may wield it as a sword against our enemies.
Okay, but you joined in January with 2 followers and you're calling yourself the Commissar, so I just have to call into question the sincerity of whether you're actually in the party or not. What chapter are you in? I'll literally check with your chapter.
Oregon chapter.
You're actually in Oregon?
Yes, sir.
Let's check. We'll have to see. I mean, I actually don't know. I'm waiting for a response. So you need to we'll see now based on what you say.
Well, so I encountered a pushback from the anti-family leftist that I'm having trouble countering, and I wanted your perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
So their argument is pulling from Stalin in Economic Problems of Socialism in the USSR, from his formulation that the relations of production must inevitably conform to the means or the productive forces, rather. Mm-hmm. So their argument is that because of the development of technology like IVF, up and coming, the ability to fertilize an egg with DNA from another egg, even though that's not functional in practice yet, but that this is the theoretical basis
Well, we're
for
talking. I
why
can just
the
cut you off for
destruction
a
of the
little
family.
bit. That's just post-humanism. So a big mistake people make in their interpretation of Marxism is that Marx and Engels don't subscribe to a notion of human nature, but they do. Even when it comes to matters of the family, they do presuppose an underlying foundation of, yes, this is human nature. The natural monogamous family does exist, and it's referenced in Engels' book, Origin of the Family. What changes are the various institutional and contractually enumerated ways in which human nature finds expression. Okay? So, for example, marriage takes a very specific form in capitalism in relation to the transmission of private property, for example, right? And that the origin of private property establishes the institution of marriage mainly as a vehicle for the transmission, the patrilineal transmission of private property. And marriage is the recognized in the form that it takes under capitalism arrangement of private property, where the wife is subordinate as a category of the private property as the husband, and so on and so on. But Engels doesn't deny there's an underlying human element based on natural human love, which he talks about, which is monogamous in nature, right? He simply denies the notion that the institutions that define the expression of that, which are in fact unique to a given mode of production, are in fact eternal. He talks about the various different ways in which these forms differ and change, but he's not talking about some kind of gender fluid theory or something across history. He's talking about in relation to the institution of private property, right? And the various modifications that occur, especially when it comes to the transmission of property. For example, distinguishing, and also, this is another thing, the incorporation of the individual into the community. So Engels talks about in Gentile society, the matrilineal tradition, which establishes the division you're in terms of the gens, right? And then the division into the phratries and the tribe and so on and so on. And, these are the things that change. But when it comes to human nature, Engels actually doesn't deny there's a human nature that these things are giving expression to in different ways. Now, if you're talking about post-humanism, post-human forms of reproduction, I'm not in a position where I'm willing to even entertain that, because we haven't reached a level where you can grow a human embryo outside of the context of a womb. It's just
that was my initial reach as well. But I think what they were specifically talking about was like single mothers through IVF, where it's no longer like the monogamous.
Well, but it's not. The mode of production is not just about technology. There's all sorts of things that are technologically possible, according to a strict rationalistic organization of production based on technology alone, that are in fact not common, because the embeddedness within the human context of how people meaningfully make sense of their totality of labor and the totality of relations that they find themselves in is just as much of a historical force as technology is. The relations of production are not just based on technology, and the forces of production are not reducible to technology either. It's the interrelation between the historically formed, what we would typically bracket as the cultural and civilizational norms, combined with technology. And those things, the thing I just mentioned, is not actually reducible to the superstructure. It's fundamentally ingrained in the logic of production.
So I hope I'm not overly simplifying you here, but if I'm understanding you correctly, then the particular way in which this is manifesting is a result of the social alienation within our society?
Yeah, I think even our fantasies about this idea that all of our human relations are going to be replaced by this, automated process of, I don't know, some institution giving women the ability to fertilize their eggs independently of man. It's like, this is a reflection of our alienation from our humanity, Um,
Understood. Thank you, comrade. I appreciate it.
for sure. See you later. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, we have to understand the human is the object and subject of Marxism. The presupposition that human beings are mechanical utilities, that no, human beings don't, you can't simply assume and presume that, for example, the relationships between human beings and words that, yes, Marx and Engels did use, like love between man and women, that the whole story of that is just over because technology, and now it's just going to be through robots or something. It's like, well, no. For most people, that's how they actually acquire a sense of self-determination and existence and humanity and recognition, is through their relations with other people, right? That's just as important as technology. I'll bring on this guy who's screaming in my chat. I just saved you for last because you've been here before. Go ahead. Go ahead. Why is this taking so long? This guy's been spamming me this whole time. Ay, ay, ay.
You're Islam, right? You follow the Quran?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Is it divine?
Yes.
It's true, 100% accurate?
Yes.
And you like Muhammad. Muhammad's a good guy. That's a role model for you to follow?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I thought you were against like the Epstein class, but
I am, yeah.
okay, well, you were talking about Plato and Socrates raping little kids. What about
Just say
Muhammad?
what you want to say.
What about Muhammad raping little kids?
He didn't.
Then why? Well, I thought you believed in the Quran.
I do.
That the Prophet married when
Mm-hmm. Where in the Quran
married
does it
her
say
when she
that?
was 6 years old,
No, where does it
and he
say that in the
consummated
Quran?
his marriage when she
Okay.
was 9 years old, and then she
Where does
remained
it
with
say
him
that in
for
the
9
Quran?
years.
Where does it say that in the
Book
Quran?
67, Hadith 69,
Okay, so it's a
Volume
hadith. It's actually
7.
not the Quran, it's a hadith. First of
Okay,
all, so just be consistent in your argument. Second of all, the majority, or all, basically Shias deny that. Shias don't believe that. I'm Shia. We don't believe that notion that she was 9 or something. In the Shia hadiths, it doesn't say that. Shias don't believe that. So you can't throw that on me. We don't believe that. Second of all, I don't even think all Sunnis believe that. So you're talking about a hadith that is contested and not universally believed. I don't believe it.
okay. So you pick and choose what you believe in the Quran.
Well, I must have gotten lucky because I was born and raised Shia, and we Shia don't believe that. So it is, I guess I did get lucky, you know, that I don't have to believe such a thing.
Okay, well, I mean, that's
And it's
kind of
not in the
convenient.
Quran. It's not in the Quran. It's in a hadith that is not believed by everybody. Even not all Sunnis believe it either, actually. I don't even
Okay,
think majority of Sunnis do. I think this was something that was made popular or normalized by some, and they're just misrepresenting it, you know?
so Allah is all powerful and all knowledgeable, right?
Sure.
Okay, so and he's good, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when he does those bombings in Palestine,
He
or
doesn't.
he's not all powerful then.
Yes, he is.
So he did that.
No.
Do you believe that he knew the end from the beginning?
Yes.
So before he said "Let there be light," he set it up to be like this, right?
So let me ask you a question. You seem very intimately familiar with the theology and the cosmology implied by it.
Yes.
Why did God, what was the purpose of creation according to the Quran?
To glorify God.
Okay, to worship God. That's correct. To worship him, not necessarily glorify. Okay, worship. To worship God. And
Kind of egocentric.
no, actually no. Because God is absolute being, okay? So we're talking about a relationship of reflection and self-relation. This is how the Sufis understood that creation is, in a sense, a way, and it was very heretical and scandalous to say this because it's implying that we are somehow part of God, right? But
You believe you're God?
no, that's not. That's a huge misinterpretation. But it is about the self-relation of absolute being, okay? Which means we are not God. There's nothing like God, right? He is unlike everything. There's absolutely incomparable. But simultaneously, to even consider all of creation in the aggregate, in its totality, is to refer to something that necessarily has to be separate from it, can't be a part of it, okay? Because the whole is not a part. Do you understand? So, to first of all make the mistake of saying, well, if God did not just make everything according to a one-sided determination of this is directly what he wanted, you're assuming too much. What is God? Who is he? How can we even think about God and his intentions? Well, the
you're
only
saying
way
God
we can
is
do
Islam.
that... What?
You're talking about an Islamic version of God, which is not something that I accept. I mean, it's like watching a bunch of clowns talk about their
Yeah, I
favorite
assume you're an
comic book
atheist,
hero.
right?
No, I'm not an atheist.
Are you a Christian?
No.
What are you?
I believe in Jesus. I believe in
Do you believe in
Buddha. I
God?
believe in Zarathustra. I believe in Ra. I believe in Confucius. I believe
Okay,
in,
that's great. Do you think there's a God?
of course,
Okay, so why don't
I
I
believe
just
in
turn this...
Krishna.
So, okay, the same question you asked me, I could ask you. How do you answer that question?
What?
If there's a God who's all-powerful, then why is there injustice in the world?
It's the universe. The universe is God, and there's no single divinity of lack of pain. Right?
What?
Pain is something that is a part of the universe, and
Okay,
suffering.
so
To live
when
is to
someone is
suffer.
getting raped and killed, does God want that?
God does not want. God is.
Okay, so is God raping and killing people?
These are humans
Okay, so the
taking.
same thing you asked me, you don't even have the response to yourself.
These are humans taking their actions into
Okay, because
account, and bringing that into the
okay,
effect of the
because
universe. So
humans have free
they're
will, which is the same thing Islam says. So what's the problem?
well, because I don't have faith that God set it up and planned it like this.
So how
God
is
is
your God all powerful?
God is the universe is everything is
Okay,
God.
okay. So if it is, then how is it not accounted for in the being of the thing? How is contingency emerged that
It is. It
deviates?
is. These are humans. These are humans
Does
who
does the
are
do
part of
human
God,
acts
bringing
deviate
it
from?
in.
Okay, you're claiming there's an original absolute substance or essence that is, right? So how could it be possible that the will of human beings deviate from that?
It doesn't.
Right. So it's the same thing.
No.
Yeah, it is. You just twisted
No.
yourself into a fucking pretzel. You don't even know what
God
you're
doesn't.
fucking
God
saying.
isn't this thing that's all holy and mighty, and like you guys
What
think
does
that
that
that,
mean?
that God that morality comes from God.
Okay, you
Uh,
don't think that?
humans invent morality
Okay.
through our God divinity connection,
Okay, that's
divine
interesting.
consciousness.
That's great. But you asked me the question of how could what's going on in Gaza be possible if God is all powerful? How does your God account for the injustice? You say, well, it's just human beings that are doing that. Well, okay, I could just simplify it and say in Islam, human beings also have free will.
Yeah, the we are part of God. That is, my God is not something that is like a floating idea in the sky that
Islam doesn't
dictates
say
from
God is
on
an.
high.
Islam does not claim God is a floating
Allah
idea
is
in the
up
sky.
high, right, and we are down low, right. We are to bow our knees to Allah, right. That's not my
We
God.
could talk about the
I am
axis.
I am on
Hold on,
par
hold
with
on, hold
God.
on. We could talk
I look
about.
at God eye to
We
eye.
could talk about the loaded language of the axis mundi and what that means. But ultimately, Islam does not say that God is an idea in the sky. It doesn't say that. It says God is the ultimate reality. God is the absolute being. God is the sublime, for which nothing can be compared. Okay? So Islam does not say God is a floating thing in the sky. Okay? You're kind of assume.
Allah.
Yeah. Yeah. Allah is not an idea in the sky.
Muhammad is not a floating thing in the sky somewhere?
No, he's not. He's a man. In Islam, Muhammad
But
is the prophet of God.
Isn't he? Well, he's dead, right? And so when you pray to him, you're praying
Nobody prays to
to a dead
Muhammad.
person.
Nobody in Islam prays to him. Believe it or not, nobody prays to him. He's a prophet. He's a messenger of God. Nobody prays to him.
We are all messengers of God.
Well, if that's true, is Jeffrey Dahmer a messenger of God? You know?
Yes, everybody's a messenger of God.
In
They
your
bring in
religion, Jeffrey Dahmer is a messenger of God.
No. I don't have religion. Religion is a man-made.
Okay, well, in your belief
packaging
system,
of
in your
spirituality.
system of belief, is Jeffrey Dahmer a messenger of God?
No.
Okay, so but you said all people were, so I was just trying to clarify what you
Yeah.
meant.
So in Jeffrey Dahmer's version of God, then that's his message.
Is that version of God real?
If Jeffrey Dahmer exists, yeah. So that's a point in time.
So
That's a
every
thing that.
single so the version of
Yeah,
God for
it's like a
yeah,
microcosm universes and worlds where
right.
you can
And
create
Jeffrey
your own
Dahmer is a
little
legitimate messenger
microcosm.
of God,
This is like
right?
it's like you on Kick, right? You're like the god of this Kick cult.
Okay. Let's go back to Jeffrey Dahmer being the messenger of God in your
All right, but
opinion.
first you got to brush your hair for me. It's getting me distracted.
It's not going to happen. So we have to focus and hone in on the argument, okay? I think you haven't thought this thing through, whatever's in your head, and I think that though you are trying to insult Islam and offend me, and you're not going to offend me. I was an atheist for 10 years. How are you going to offend me? Though you're trying to offend me, I think that you need to convert to Islam. You're missing something. You clearly, whatever this thing you've adopted, it's not doing much for you. If you think Jeffrey Dahmer is a messenger of God, I don't know how much you...
So you think God didn't want Jeffrey Dahmer to exist, and God was fighting against Jeffrey Dahmer, but Jeffrey Dahmer won.
I think God accounts for the possibility that Jeffrey Dahmer could exist.
God created Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer would be a child of
But
God, no?
by assuming a unidirectional and direct notion of creation according to time, you're making assumptions about the nature of God that are not justifiable. Like
How
the
can
notion
evil
that
exist?
God creates as man creates, as in man, for example, fashions a sword by breaking metals and beating them with heating them up or something, like being a blacksmith, and this is how God makes people. You're
Do
making
you
an
believe in
assumption
fate?
about the nature of God that's not justifiable.
Do you believe in fate?
Yeah.
Okay, so then therefore, that's where you and I differ. I don't believe in fate. We write our own fate. We write our own histories, and this is why evil can exist. Is because some people can corrupt God and bring in evil. If there is
Well,
fate, then from the beginning,
again,
God would have to create
a
evil in
notion of
mind.
fate would have to assume there's an ultimate reality, okay? And that is what is fateful. But if you read philosophers like Mullah Sadra, for example, he talks about how there can be different fates. That free will is so powerful that there are different forms of there's different types of destiny. There's different fates that are possible.
Oh my God, that makes sense if you don't think about it, everybody.
Like changing fate is literally possible in a
So
sense.
there's multiple versions of fate.
Fate, not faith. Fate.
Yeah, there's multiple versions of fate.
Yes. Yes, it
Okay,
can
so then
change.
by definition, you're not talking about fate. You just twisted yourself into a pretzel.
Well, if you read Mullah Sadra, then you can make an argument
Okay,
about it.
explain
but
that
you
for us. I
haven't.
don't need to go do your homework. You carry the argument
It's
yourself,
not
big
my
boy.
homework. I'm giving you homework to do, actually. Actually,
Yeah, I
I'm giving
know.
you homework. I'm giving you
I'm
homework.
not debating that guy. I'm debating you. So you have to carry his argument. I
Well,
don't have to go
basically, the
read the book.
assumption that there's either a fixed fate for which our will is basically superfluous, and which is set, which God himself cannot change, versus the notion that we are completely free and autonomous to just do whatever we want and there's no fate. He was dealing with that contradiction because it's a clear and obvious contradiction in the theology of free will and determinism. And Mullah Sadra basically concludes that, yes, everything is predetermined by God, but so powerful is God that God, for example, can at any moment change fate. That's one thing. So there can be different types of fate. God can change fate. He can change what fate actually is.
So did God
And
not know
then he says human
that
will.
he was going to do that?
What?
God didn't know that he was going to change his mind. God changes his mind. Essentially,
No,
is what
that's
you're
the
saying.
beautiful thing is he did. He does know that he's going to
So
do it.
then he never changed fate. Then that was the path that he took from the
from
beginning.
what we, because we are finite beings, can comprehend as fate, yes, he can. Fate for God is not something we can relate to or comprehend.
Let's just take something in history, right?
What
Like
we can
Hitler,
comprehend
right?
as fate,
When God said, "Let there be light," did he know Hitler was going to do that?
in a sense, yes, but you're not talking about something that is.
So God created Hitler to go kill millions of people.
No, because you're assuming you understand the reasons for creation and existence that you can't. Okay.
Only if you have faith could you be blind enough to make this make sense.
You just flip. I just tried to explain to you the free will and determinism thing, but then you're flipping into Hitler. So you need to focus on something.
You just said there's fate, right? And so I'm predestined to do a certain thing, but then I can change what fate is, and God will.
Yeah, free
God will
will
make
is
that
so
fate
strong.
change.
Yes, Mullah Sadra makes the argument that free will is so strong that even human beings can alter fate.
Then it's not fate. If then that you just contradicted the definition of fate. Fate is something that is written in stone before it happens.
I'm trying to explain
that
to
is
you,
going to happen.
trying to explain to you, for us, for God, no, yeah, for God it's fate, okay, but for God, fate is such that free will is superfluous, but that doesn't mean free will is not an attribute of creation. It means for God, the determination of being is so infinite and so sublime, it's something we cannot finitely comprehend. So for us, fate, what we can understand and comprehend as fate, can change. For God, ultimately, everything is determined by God, but we can't have access or relate to divine fate. That's something too infinite and too vast for us to comprehend finitely.
You're just contradicting yourself. You can't just make a word.
Well, what
not
we
mean
human
what it
beings
means.
regard as contradictions partake in the unity of God. We think they're contradictions because we're not God. We're finite beings. So we assume it's a contradiction, but it is reconciled in God.
Only that could make sense to only somebody who uses faith as their reasoning through
No,
life.
you're not even.
Yeah,
not even talking about faith yet.
that can't even make any sense.
Dude,
If you're a skeptical person, a rational person,
you give me a
can't make that
fucking
make
break.
sense.
Dawes, you're talking about irrational faith. You think Krishna is God. You think Confucius is God. You think Jeffrey Dahmer's God is real. You think every single human being has their own God that they just invented that's real. Like, you literally believe in the plot
We
of
are
American
attached
Gods.
to God. We are a part of God. The universe is God.
You
Every
literally
single
believe in
particle that exists
the
is
story.
God.
You believe in the star show American Gods, where there's like Mexican Jesus, there's normal Jesus. Like, everything anyone believes is real.
No, not anything that they believe. Their themselves is real. Jesus understood this, right? Buddha understood this, right? That's why they awoken, right? Before that,
Don't talk
we were
about
animals
Buddha. Buddha
walking,
is
roaming the
not some
earth,
hippie. You
and
have
then
a
we have this
hippie.
divine consciousness breakthrough
First
where
of
we
all,
realize that we are
don't
connected to the
insult.
universe.
Listen. Don't insult Buddha. You don't know who Buddha was. Buddha was not a hippie.
Siddhartha, I know who Buddha was.
Buddha was not a hippie. Okay, the name of Buddha corresponded to some of the most devastating and decisive.
Buddha was one of the first awakened ones.
Buddha, it corresponded to immense violence throughout history. The Mongols were Buddhists, and many wars were fought.
Yeah, that's religion, though. That's the repackaging of religion.
But I'm just trying to tell you something that, like, when you have this hippie worldview, we're like, yeah, man, like, they were just hippies. It's like, that's not the truth at all.
No, that's not my worldview.
Okay. Well, you have you invented your own religion, which is fine, but
it's not a religion.
Whatever worldview or system of belief you have sounds retarded, dude. I'm just going to be honest.
Oh, more than Islam?
Yeah, Islam. But okay.
Wait, don't you believe in like a flying chariot that took somebody up to heaven?
No, like I want you to humble yourself for 1 second, okay?
You believe in a talking donkey?
Can I ask you something? How old are you?
I'm old enough.
Okay, let's say you're 40. Okay, let's say you're 45. Okay.
I'm younger than you.
Oh, you're younger than me. Okay, so you're in your 20s. So, as someone who's only lived,
Bro, wait, how old are you?
30.
Holy shit. Okay, I'm older than you.
Okay. Well, whatever. Let's just say you're 35 or something, all right?
I thought you were like 40.
Okay, that's great. So, let me explain it to you, okay? You have lived a life about 20 years, okay, 40 years, let's say. You have had time to think about things and come to your own conclusions about them. But let me ask you a question. What you're calling Islam, that's 1,400 years of people thinking about this shit, just thinking it through. Spending time, some devoting their entire lives.
Like
hold on. Some devoting their entire lives to thinking about it. So when you say that this thing that you invented in the shower is less retarded than something that people had time to think about for 1,400 years, you need to be a little bit humble and just assume, well, actually, people were not that stupid. They did actually think these things through and try to make sense of them.
No, because they're
You're
using
not being
faith.
charitable enough, is what I'm trying
Isn't
to
faith?
say.
What is the definition of faith? You have faith? Are you a faithful person?
Yes.
What is the definition of faith?
Give me yours first. So
No, you give me yours. I'm asking the question. What is your definition of faith? I don't have faith, so you tell me what faith is.
I think faith names the specific relationship we have to that which is absolute, but which we can have no certainty with respect to the content of. But which nonetheless, ultimately and in the final sense, is the source of the confidence we have that life is meaningful and that there's an inner harmony between what we give in this life and what we take from it. And that's what I think faith is.
Faith, by definition, is believing in something that you cannot believe,
that's just
understand, see, feel.
You need to be much more charitable to the.
No, if you can rationale it, if you can make it rational, then by definition that is not faith.
Listen, I want to educate you. You need to be more charitable to the tens or hundreds of thousands of years of history of human beings.
No,
and
we don't.
Need to discard. Hold on. You need to discard this idea that faith is just the arbitrary investment of certainty or, empirical claims arbitrarily made about reality, like as though people were just like inventing something in their head, like unicorns, and they're like, I think there's a unicorn delusionally, and that like,
you believe the moon split into two.
No, did you think the Greeks thought that there was like some guys on Mount Olympus? Like when the Greeks were sitting around and there's a mountain in front of them that they can see. Do you think they actually believe that when you climb that mountain, there's going to be like some robed guys running around talking? Like they were that retarded?
Yeah, they basically personified
you thought that these
emotions.
people, you thought they were that retarded, right? That's what
they
you think?
basically, I mean, who's Hercules? Isn't Hercules half man, half god?
I can explain Hercules and other heroes from the Homeric era if you want, like Heracles and stuff.
Wait. So you just think all of this is a metaphor in the Quran?
No. I'm saying it's not a metaphor, but it is the way people are translating their ontology into language.
Because I would say they're all metaphors. Everything that the books
it's
have
not
been
just
about
metaphors, but it's the translation.
They don't have the science to
They're not making empirical. Listen, empirical truth value claims are based upon the anticipation of practically intervening in reality in a specific way. Whereas translating your ontology into language to make sense of the universe that you live in and the world you live in and your relations with others and the totality does not take the form of making literal empirical truth claims about the physical or sensible world.
Do you believe in Noah's Ark?
I could tell you exactly what Noah's Ark was about, if you want.
Well, I mean, do you believe all of the animals 2 by 2 got on a boat?
I can tell you what Noah's Ark was about, if you want.
Just, I don't want the whole story. I know the Noah's Ark.
No, I can tell you what it was about and why.
I'm saying, was there a physical boat that animals 2 by 2 got on?
No.
Okay, all right. Just checking, just clarifying. Holy shit. That's like a
but that doesn't mean they were just believing in some retarded shit. There's a reason why they phrased it that way.
There's been histories of floods. I understand.
And what is the ark? What is the ark?
It's the thing that preserves our
And historically, we know what that is. Okay, this is the
our
rise
spark.
of the temple economies, because temples became institutions where people stored all of their knowledge, their skills, and everything they could take into the future. And because of that, when there was these cataclysmic cyclical floods, so for tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, human beings were at the mercy of arbitrary changes in the environment. And every time they had reached a certain level, the environment just wiped them out. So the rise of temple economies around what we call the Neolithic Revolution basically allowed people to store their knowledge, store their skills in a new division of labor,
I understand.
survive and endure these floods.
I
But
understand.
the emergence of that was contentious socially. The emergence of temples
I'm 10 steps ahead of you.
created a conflict between, are we
We know.
going to invest in the temple, or are we going to keep to our own, primitive
Take a
tribal
breath.
bands and have certainty in that? So the story of Noah's Ark is about that specific conflict.
So
Yes,
you
thank
don't believe in the Quran literally?
It's not about literally or metaphorically, because it never made the claim that this is speaking within the context of an experimental, empirical, context of reality. It's never making that claim in the first place. It's not speaking about reality in a modern
What claim is
scientific
it
way.
making?
What?
What claim is the Quran making?
Primarily ontological. It's primarily ontological. It's primarily
Go
religious,
into
which
depth.
is a separate
Explain that.
category. Well, ontology is about being. It's about the nature of being.
And what claim is it making about being?
That there's an absolute oneness of being, and that in particular, there's an absolute totality underlying every division of labor that fundamentally, yes, I mean, that's literally what it's saying.
So no, you have the first
I
part
should
right,
translate
right?
that.
All religions have this absolute oneness
Yes.
correct, right?
Yes.
Bob Marley, One Love. They all have the oneness correct. That's all they need to go to. So my religion is the absence of two. That's if you want to call it a
So
religion.
Islam is all about oneness. It's all about Tawheed. That's what it's about. It's about the one. It's
No,
about
but
oneness.
Islam is about control, just like
No,
Marxism
it's
is
not.
about control. It's
No,
about
it's not.
order. It's about making sure everything has.
Dawson, you need to understand something.
control.
Do you have kids?
No.
Okay, but if you have kids, you understand when you have kids, you have to teach them how to be human. They're very unruly. If you don't watch your kids and impose order on them, they may grab a knife or put a fork into an electric socket and kill themselves, or they may take a brick and smash their head into it.
Yeah, but if you were never taught how to be human, who's going to teach them?
You were taught how to avoid danger. You know how to.
No. I'm saying if you weren't taught how to be human, then who's going to teach them?
Who hasn't been taught?
Okay, exactly. So what do you mean? How can they not be taught?
Because that's why we have authority. That's why we have what you're calling control. Because populations are the same way. Not everyone is at the same level of maturity and development. People need guidance, especially at the mass level.
Yeah, they need guardrails.
Recently,
they don't need cages.
They don't need what?
They don't need cages. They need guardrails.
Nobody said they need cages. Who said they need cages?
Basically, communism needs cages.
Why?
I mean, have you seen North Korea? It's one giant cage.
It's not actually, though. It's really not.
You'll
learn something.
I have met a few North Koreans on vacation, but only when I was in Ukraine.
You went to Ukraine? When did you fucking go to Ukraine?
It's a joke. They're not allowed to leave North Korea.
Well, they're not allowed to share state secrets with enemy states, if that's what you're saying.
No, they can't go on vacation and just leave the country.
Neither
and
can you.
Explore the world.
Neither can you.
Exercise the freedom of human.
Neither can
existence.
you. Go do it. Try it.
I just got back from Japan.
Okay.
I've been to.
Do it next
I've been
time.
to Europe.
Do it next time
I've been
without
to Southeast Asia.
Hold on. Do it next
time.
I've
been to South America.
Do it next time without a passport or while you're under FBI investigation. Try it. Do it with a passport. Without a passport next time. Try it.
Okay, so they can do it with a passport?
Yeah, if they're given the proper permission, they can do it.
No, they can't.
Yes, they can.
Yeah, if they have somebody walking with them to keep an eye on them.
Not necessarily.
So I mean, you think that level of restriction is reasonable?
Yes, it is actually. It's profoundly
So
reasonable.
I'm not defending the passport. I don't think I should have to have a passport and get permission to well, I don't have to have
Okay.
permission to leave the country.
You do.
I only have
You
to
do
have
need
permission to
permission.
enter the country. No, I don't have to have permission to leave. I can go to Canada without having
With a
my passport.
Assuming that
I
you
don't
have
have
a
to have my
passport.
passport. I don't have to have my passport to go to Canada.
Okay,
I've
well,
gone to
that's
Canada
probably
before
a
without
special. That's
without.
probably because it's a special agreement that we have with
Okay,
the
but that's an
Canadian
example
government.
of
But that's only
I don't
that's
need
at
a
the mercy of the
passport.
fact that our governments have this agreement with each other, not because you have the freedom, but because our governments gave you that
My
freedom.
government has given me that freedom.
Okay, well, if your
Well, actually, I should say
if
this.
your freedom is
My
being
government
given
hasn't
to you,
taken
hold
away
on,
that
let me
freedom.
correct you on something. If someone's giving you your freedom, you don't have it.
No, my government
You
hasn't
don't
taken
have
away
it.
that
If
freedom.
it's given
I
to
agree.
you don't have
I
it. They
don't. I
can,
don't think the government should be able to do with the things that it does. I'm not sitting here.
Okay.
I'm saying, oh, hey,
But
I'm
it does,
pro
objectively,
America
that's just how.
government.
But
That's not
objectively,
me.
that's how every government in the world works.
No. I think there's lesser evils. Yeah, every government is evil, and I think there's lesser evils.
Okay, that's a very cowardly way to look at the world, where you don't have to make a choice and just choose good over evil. You can just say
There
it's
is no such thing as good over evil. That's a fake
So
invisible
what's your
world that
issue
you're
then?
playing in.
Then why do you have a problem with cages if they're not evil?
Evil is created by man.
Okay,
And
whether
so
it's
they
you said
choose
it's
to
not
because they
real.
weren't raised right. They were told that they need to keep authority and keep order, and you need to be strict because
I'll tell you what. I'll
without
tell you
order
what.
is
I'll tell you what.
chaos.
We can make a bet if you want to make a bet. Since you're so concerned about the freedom of North Koreans, here's my bet to you. Are you ready? If the U.S. and its allies cease all hostilities and aggressions against the DPRK, meaning they stop their embargo, their sanctions, their attempt to overthrow the North Korean state, their attempt to meddle in their affairs and interfere in their affairs, if the U.S. and its allies agree to do that, and the DPRK doesn't lax restrictions, I will criticize them. How about that?
Well, I mean,
So you make your
they
job.
border
We
China
have
and
two
they
jobs
border
then.
Russia.
Your job is to go and make sure your government leaves them alone, and all of its puppets leave them alone.
They border China and they border Russia, so they
So
could just have an agreement with China and Russia and go to China and Russia if they wanted. And China's another communist country,
okay,
not
let me ask
Russia.
you a question. Does
Russia's not even
China
communist.
does China and the United States trade?
Go on.
U.S. sanctions on the DPRK apply to China and also Russia too. Well, Russia cares less about them, which is why there's unprecedented economic cooperation between the two. But in any case,
So
no.
this justifies the starvation of your population.
There's no intentional starvation of the population. It's the U.S.
This
sanctions.
justifies the ignorance of being able to run a country to starve your citizens.
It's not the fault of the government that people were starving in the 90s. It's
Holy
the fault
shit! What is the job of a government?
to protect your population
Okay, from what?
from people who want to rape and plunder your nation like the USA.
Protect it from death, right?
Well, actually, death is one of the prices you have to pay to retain your
Yeah,
independence.
you're protecting your citizens from being killed, right? That's the point of a government.
In the long term, if you look at the South Koreans, they're killing themselves because their fertility rate is so low, they won't even exist in a matter of decades, centuries.
Whatever about South Korea, that's fine.
So you have
But
to, when you're a
you don't
government,
have
you
an
look at things
obligation
in the
to
long
prevent
term.
starvation?
When you're a government, you have to look at things in the long term. You're saying that they should have surrendered to the U.S.?
No, I'm saying they should have been competent leaders and
All right, you're calling
prioritize
it
the
incompetence. Whose fault
nutrition of
is
their
it?
citizens.
Why did the U.S. impose such an aggressive embargo on the DPRK after the fall of the USSR if they were so concerned about people starving? Why did they cause the starving by imposing that embargo? And that's sanctions.
That's such a victim card. Like the whole thing about like the Berlin Wall
You know what's
and
sad? If we alone, let me tell you, I don't even
Eastern
think
Germany,
if the United
it's
States,
the big meanies were mean to us. That's why we suck. That's why we can't feed our people. That's why we don't have a good economy because the big meanies are meanie. Like, okay, just man up, sack up, be a man, get the fucking economy on your back, and be a good fucking
You
country, and
speak
lead your
with
fucking people
such.
to success
You
and
speak.
salvation.
Can I be honest with you? Though you are older than me, when you speak, you sound like a child.
Bro, you're over here with your little pretend fan club. What are you talking about?
How pretend is it though?
Bro, you speak into a mic like you're important every fucking day. And you get these suck ups in here that fucking brown nose you and say, "Oh my gosh, Haj, you're so amazing." Like, who needs that for their fucking ego? I don't fucking need that. That's pretty fucking childish to me. You have a fucking god, Muhammad, that you have to listen to, that you bow to. That's pretty fucking childish to me. I
And
don't
does he
fucking do
make
that to
me?
another
Does he
man.
make me
I don't call
scream?
another man daddy like Putin or like Muhammad. I'm a fucking man. I don't fucking look at these people as above me. I look at them as eye to eye. You have them as like above you, like you're a little coward, like a little
In the
boy,
beginning
and
of
that
this
those are your daddies.
conversation, you named a few people that you venerate, like Jesus and Buddha and Confucius and others. Did you not?
Yeah, they're my equal. They're my brothers.
Okay.
They have cracked the code. They have
If they're, let
understood
me ask you a
the
question. I'm
reality
gonna
of
bomb you.
consciousness.
You sound so ridiculous. If they're your equals, why do you name them? Why don't just name yourself?
Because they're like you just said, the venerated leaders.
So why
Didn't you
not?
just say that?
So they're not your equals then, because if they were your equals, you would just name yourself.
They are my ancestors. They came before me.
Okay.
They laid the
Well,
stonework.
and that's how I see Putin or Xi Jinping or whatever. They came
And
before me.
Muhammad?
He did come before me, objectively.
Yeah, yeah, but he's also your God, right?
Where? Where in Islam is
Is Muhammad
Muhammad?
God?
No.
Muhammad's not God. Can you say that in a sentence for us?
Muhammad is not God.
Holy shit. Right here, everybody hears that. This guy who is Islam just said Muhammad is not God.
Can I ask you
Who
a
twisted
question?
themselves into a pretzel
Why do
right
you
now?
have such a problem with Islam when you know nothing about it?
Holy shit. Well, I mean, I thought one of the tenets of Islam is that Muhammad is God.
Where did you learn that?
Basic religion 101.
Where? Tell me where you got that course.
Muhammad ascended into heaven, did he not?
He went to heaven, okay. Does that the same thing as
Is
saying he's God?
Is Muhammad a part of God? Is he God in human form?
No. Where did you learn that?
So he's not.
Yeah. I mean, you're the guy with the answers apparently, but I've never heard of that. I've never heard of any Muslim saying that.
So he's just some guy then.
He's a messenger of God. He's a prophet.
So just like all the other prophets.
He's the last one. That's the difference.
Okay, so in Christianity, they think Jesus is the last prophet, and then they say he's God.
They believe Jesus is, yes, the Son of God.
So who fulfilled the sacrifice then?
What in Islam?
Who has come to forgive us from our sins? Who has taken away our sins from us?
Jesus. Well, no,
Salvation.
Islam did not
What?
say we had a ledger of sins that we've accumulated
Is the Old
collectively.
Testament a part of Islam?
Yes, but it is said that it has been corrupted in the Islamic tradition. They say that the
The
holy books.
original oldest text has been corrupted.
That's what Islam, the religion,
So then
says.
all of Islam is corrupt because it comes from a corrupt thing. Or
No.
are you saying that somehow purity grew out of
No,
corruption?
the Islamic theology claims that the Quran is co-eternal and it is the word of God, and directly, but that, the older holy books have been distorted over time and corrupted.
So if you just don't like them, you just kind of throw them out and you pick and choose.
Well, I mean, even if they're
It's like a
picking and
buffet.
choosing, there's a reason why they're picking and choosing what they are in the first place, and that's what's relevant in theology. It's
So
not
how do you
about-
know that the books and the words in there were picked and chosen correctly?
because you have to evaluate
Faith?
them based on their content and what the content
So
means.
each individual is responsible for authenticating each individual word. So then there is no fucking wrapped up packaged religion.
No, I don't think that's true. It's not about each individual necessarily. It's about what the meaning is collectively in our collective struggle for existence now and what role it plays in that. And that's something we share. And we have the burden of sharing it because we have to communicate with each other in order to coexist in a single division of labor. So you can say, well, it's just individuals can interpret it however they want, but they can't.
You don't think
They
that's like an
can't make that. They
ideology?
can't
Like,
give that interpretation the objective social and historical significance it
so
needs
here,
to actually become a force of history.
do you believe that the ways of nature are what's going to be pure and truthful and come into fruition in the world, right? Like how nature
Everyone should
is what
donate
will
20
be,
subs for me having to deal
and
with
we
this.
have to not fight against it, right?
What?
Like humans are always trying to fight against nature, right? You believe this, and
No.
the reality of nature will exist no matter how much
I
we fight against
I
it.
I don't believe that there's a fight with nature.
Like to control nature, like we plant
No.
gardens, and
No.
then one day the gardens come and overgrow the weeds come back.
It's not about control. It's meaningless.
Well, I'm saying like you have to be one with nature, right? Like you have to be one with the oneness, and you can't fight against
We
it.
are already.
Okay, so um, going back to the divisions of labor, right? Oh, wait, first, can you define for me who are the bourgeoisie? What is your definition of bourgeoisie?
The bourgeoisie are those who own private property as capital.
Do you own property?
Funny enough, I don't own it as capital.
What does that mean as capital?
Well, private property takes different forms in history. But in capitalism, private property principally takes the form of a
No, no, for
self.
you. I'm talking about you specifically.
I only have personal belongings, honestly. I don't really even have property.
But you said you own property,
Well, you need to clarify what you mean. I don't own property as capital.
like land with a dwelling.
I have personal belongings, and that's all I'll say.
So you don't own land with a dwelling. Are you in
What?
your parents' house right now?
No,
So this is your house right now that you're sitting in.
I guess.
So you own that.
I don't know why you're inquiring with such detail about this.
Well, I'm just kind of funny that you don't believe in owning personal property when you own personal property.
Yeah, I don't believe in having personal possession. That's totally something I've said. Oh,
Okay, so how does this division of labor work? Because I mean, it seems like a fantastical idea. Like I would love everybody to just receive according to their needs and contribute according to their abilities. But you understand there are
five
people like
subs and
Jeffrey
I kick
Dahmer,
this
your
guy.
boy,
Literally just
who are
five
going to not
subs.
play by the
Just that's
rule,
all it
right?
will take. 5 subs and he's gone. Uh the division of labor is not an ideal, it's a reality. We all live in a division of labor.
Yeah, but to control it, right? The idea that we can elect or we can have somebody who's an authoritarian leader divide the labor in
No.
an equal way for us.
No. No.
All
It's
right, so
not a
how does
that's I told them that it's
Pastor's
5 subs
King?
to remove you
How,
and they donated the 5. Orvo, what's up? Peter, what's up? Chris, what's up? I said 5 subs and I remove him and they gave me 5 subs, so it's just honestly fair. And thanks guys for that. If anyone else would like to come up, that was so exhausting. This guy's so exhausting. He's like just so exhausting. Like he just has such a childlike mentality. It's like Black Pack, thank God, bro. Thank you so much with the 6. He did. Black Pack sent 6 because he was like, no, 5 is not enough. He needs to especially be gone. No, it's not Russia Defender, actually. It's not. Joseph, go ahead.
Hey, what's happening?
Nothing much.
So explain to me what's with this whole communism or Leninism, Marxism, and Islam connection, because that's new to me.
Explain to you the connection between Marxism and Islam.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, Marxism.
and give sources.
No, I'm not.
Islamic
I
sources.
don't do this Reddit thing, so sorry. I don't know what your standard of sources is going to be, or you want some higher authority. I am an authority. Okay, call me Sheikh.
okay, okay. Go ahead.
So the basic idea of the connection of Marxism and Islam being the same thing. Don't interrupt me at any point, all right? Because then I'm going to lose track of what I'm saying. Islam emerges as the first real universal faith of mankind. Okay? Judaism was not universal. And Zoroastrianism, though it was universal and though it aspired toward all of humanity and mankind and it was monotheist, and it really initiates the tradition of messianic and eschatological monotheism, which we call the Abrahamic tradition, Zoroastrianism was never concretized in the same way, for example, Judaism was. Judaism was concretized in the covenant. So the covenant was a special relationship between the tribe of Israel and God. So it's concretized. Zoroaster is not, it is in combination an oral tradition, a textual tradition, but it's a kind of a loose tradition and it's not concretized anywhere, right? Christianity is concretized and universal in the form of Christ. Okay, so Christianity is universal. But the problem with Christianity's universalism is the Trinity. It is, yes, universal, but it is a universal that has not acquired the concreteness of the one. It is a universal in the process of acquiring concreteness, right? Through the hypostasis of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And the Trinity becomes the concrete in many interpretations, but there's a limitation as far as Christianity's ability to expand to the world because of that. And Christianity mainly becomes defined by walled, gated civilizations that have to institutionalize the faith through a union with pre-existing forms of political sovereignty and authority, namely the Romans, right? So in the Western Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, and even later in Russia, they're kind of inheriting these structures of sovereignty that come from the Romans. Islam finally acquires a true notion of the universal faith of all mankind, like addressing all of humanity, concretized in the form of the Holy Quran, right? So what we're really talking about is the universal humanity, the universality of man, okay? And the universality of being. So the concrete unity, the all, the one. Hegel and Hegelian philosophy more or less attempts to develop through the faculties of reason and thinking and thought alone a relationship between knowledge and the universal, right? Which is concluded in Hegel's notion of absolute knowledge and Hegel's notion of the absolute spirit as the mediation of reason and the idea in the world as mind, self-developing and acquiring self-recognition and self-relation through human history itself, right? So Hegel's dialectic basically more or less is about how God acquires self-recognition and self-knowledge through human history. But this is a God of contemplation, already projected as an absolute idea, okay? Feuerbach, who comes after Hegel, says that this Hegelian absolute spirit is just the alienated form of humanity. And that Christianity, and moreover, it was an alienated form of Christianity, and that Christianity is the ultimate human religion because in a distorted and alien form, it gives expression to the essence of what man is, which is called within the Feuerbachian tradition, Gattungswesen, okay, species being, a being that is a particular. So a being that is acquires self-relation by itself becoming a particular, right? And of course, all being acquires particularity, but not as the self-relation of being as such. So there's this profound ontological significance of man that Feuerbach discovers. And it's specifically the movement of Feuerbach to Marx that I think marks an accidental rediscovery of Islam in the modern world. Because in the movement of Feuerbach to Marx, Marx actually decouples the absolute from the strictly abstract kind of doctrinaire Trinitarian form that's inherited from Hegel and accepts the absolute integrity of material being to simply be concrete, to be concrete, the concrete whole, as this kind of unmediated presupposition that man should simply blindly acknowledge and accept as like an a priori, basically. And the early poetry of young Marx actually reflects this directly. Such that for Marx, the human essence doesn't take the form of any abstract, projection of the faculties of thinking, but is already the concrete integrity of material being in front of us. That which on the street I find is directly from his poetry, right? And that is the concrete unity, the concrete whole. So it's always about the one, the unity for Marx. Now he identifies that with man, and not necessarily with God. But he's not replacing man with God.
He wasn't religious.
What?
I mean, he wasn't religious. Yeah, I mean, he viewed it as a...
No, he agreed with Feuerbach that religion was an alienation of the Gattungswesen. But the problem is that God is unlike anything, basically, and that it's the relationality that Marx establishes the thinking being or the subject or the individual or whatever you want to call them toward themselves, so the self-relation of man, that conveys the logic, basically, of it presupposes a notion of the absolute being that you only find in Islam, basically. That's basically the argument. Marx's humanism presupposes a notion of the absolute, which only Islamic theology provides, in my opinion. That's the simplification.
That's the simplification. Okay.
Because for Marx, the absolute being has to be something that is already the concrete and integral totality, the concrete and integral whole, which is there before it kind of is recognized by us as such, right?
But he has ideas that are anti-Islamic.
Like what?
I mean, he was anti-religion, and the idea that religion
Islam was also anti-religion.
Keeps workers quiet. It's a tool for control.
Islam was also anti-religion. Muhammad in the Kaaba destroyed like 300 idols, so he was pretty anti-religion.
No, paganism isn't a religion. No.
Yeah, well, what is religion, though?
Exactly
religion
the antithesis of
religion. If the root word of religion, because we're not all speaking the same language in the world.
Religion is the way of life.
What?
Religion is the way of life.
No, it's not. Religion, in its root meaning, is a shared community with a shared bond. Okay? Figures like Jesus Christ and Muhammad actually do sever these bonds and call them into question. You're literally at the tribal familial level, right? You're turning father against son and so on and so on. Cousin against cousin. So in a sense, if you think about it, the prophets in these traditions like Muhammad or Moses or Muhammad, or sorry, and Jesus, they're actually anti-religion as well. They're undermining religion, the fabric of religiosity, in the strict sense of how we understand it in Western civilization. If we mean religion as a receptacle of the sacred, Marx also wasn't necessarily anti-religion. Because while Marx agreed more or less with Feuerbach that religion is an alienated or distorted reflection of the human essence, it still is the only receptacle of the human essence that we can actually point to and refer to in order to have a meaningful understanding of what the human is in the world. Like, you can't speak of this human essence outside of the context of referencing religion, really. Because even if religion is the privileged form of human alienation, it's precisely because it's privileged that gives it the meaningfulness that it does. So whether, like the question of whether, Marx thinks that religion refers to something empirically real or empirically distinct, rather, is the better word, is actually immaterial and irrelevant. If the meaning is the same, it doesn't matter what's at stake in terms of the empirical distinctions implied, because the religions originally never even cared about empirical distinctions. Like whether God is an empirically distinct entity that we could somehow sense as a separate substance tangibly in the world, they were not speaking on such a level. So why would it matter if Marx didn't believe that?
What do you mean? Who do you mean by they weren't?
Marx
speaking?
rejected the idea that there's these separate metaphysical substances floating in the aether.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even that is not justifiably inferred from the history of religious revelations in history. It's unclear, for example, whether Jesus was claiming there are these separate substances floating in the aether somewhere.
It's very clear from Prophet Muhammad.
No, it's not at all.
Okay.
For even when he refers to jinn, he's not referring to an aether. He's referring to, for example, entities.
No, jinn is pretty clear. Jinn is another creation by God.
Yeah, but he's referring to things that actually exist.
They're made out of fire.
They're made of a smokeless fire, yeah.
Yeah.
But not something in the aether or something, right?
That's irrelevant, but I mean that's not the point. The point is that the prophet made it pretty clear, and also from his certain miracles, certain hadiths that talk about what he did. It was pretty clear that there are other creations. There are seven heavens. His travels to the outer worlds.
Yeah, but what did he mean to refer to when he said that? When we're living in an era when people are not relating to the world around them in a primarily modern utilitarian sense, where everything is ready at hand, but when cosmology and, the description of reality is very much rooted in focusing on what does this mean, what content of meaning is meant to be conveyed. You can't say that they're referring to these like, yeah, let's just take like a spaceship expedition and we can just build one and go there. They're not thinking in this modern way. They're not thinking in terms of that.
Yeah, yes. Definitely this is believing in the unseen. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Believing in the unseen.
But
and I think
for example,
you're
the
trying
unseen,
to connect
the unseen,
Marxism.
Yeah,
kind
Marxism
of
also
anti-Islam.
affirms the unseen, Marxism also affirms the unseen. As long as we talk about
not really, no.
Yeah, if the unseen is the totality, how can you see a totality? How do you see a mode of production? You can see parts of a mode of production. You can see evidence of a mode of production.
Yeah.
You can
it's
see
still in the physical world. It's not metaphysical.
The problem with talking about physical or superphysical It's kind of devoid of meaning because everything physical is at the scale of individual sensibility if we're talking about empiricism. But within Marxism, no individual can actually see something called capitalism. You can see examples of the mode of production, but we can't meaningfully refer to a total unity of the division of labor, or let me simplify it, something called society. How can we see society? Think about it. Aren't we just seeing different individuals? What's a society?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just kind of bike shedding. We
That's
can see
what?
society, and you're bike shedding.
I don't know what
I
that
think
means.
it's uh bike shedding. It's like you're trying to go. It's a roundabout way of going about the point that we're trying to discuss.
How am I circumventing the point in your estimation?
Yeah, I mean, you can see society, right? We're living in a society. What do people mean when they're saying we're living in a society?
I'm asking
And
you
you
that.
can
How
see
is that
capitalism.
justified by the strict?
And by the way, when you said you can see the effects of something, that is by definition a physical
Okay,
thing,
but
right?
within the Islamic tradition, you can
I'll give
also
you another. I'll give you the other. I think what you're trying to say, like for example, right now in Christianity or Islam, right? If you sin, if you commit like some kind of sin, let's not say like stealing or something, but uh, missing a prayer or something, right? There isn't really an effect or anything that you would see or anyone would see or
well,
anyone
the
any
argument would
science
be
can't measure that.
there's not an immediate effect, but in the long term, there's an effect. So in the same way, if you talk about heaven in Islam, for example, we definitely see the effects of heaven in Islam. That's why it's a meaningful referent of language. Nowhere is there being proposed some speculative thing that is entirely unrelatable to us in any sense at all. Like even God, although God is unlike anything, the works of God are evident in the world. Heaven and its effect on the world is evident. Jinn are referring to entities that are responsible for things that happen in the world that can be observed at the physical or individual level within Islam. Likewise, within Marxism, not everything Marxism refers to can be directly seen physically in the empiricist sense, the empirical sense. Like I said, capitalism is kind of, or society is an abstraction. You can't see a society directly. You can see the effects of society. You can see relations that could only be made meaningful sense of within the context of what we're referring to as a society. But this is about human language and meaning. Ultimately, this is what the analytical tradition struggled with deeply in terms of meaning and language. Whether we're talking about Carnap or Sellars and others, when they're talking about what does it mean to signify something as a word? Well, we're signifying a referent whose concreteness ultimately is referring to like a tangible or observable, empirically observable thing. Well, that we know that's not how it works. Language refers to all manner of things in order to make sense of our reality, which are not reducible to anything empirically immediately accessible to us, but which only acquire their part of a meaning by existing in the context of wider relations.
So do you believe in? I mean, there's this concept of like I think, therefore I am, and then
No.
there's this. Okay.
No, that's the problem. Even Feuerbach, who Marx draws from, rejects that. Feuerbach rejects the idea that I think, therefore I am. He's basically saying even when we think, we're already embedded in a relationality with the species, right? And it's ultimately the content of the species that defines and contextualizes our thoughts, right?
Interesting. I still didn't quite catch the the Marxism and Islam connection, and also your branding and your messaging. Why go full frontal on the whole Marxism stuff and not just go Islam?
Because I think the word
Yeah.
Islam has been corrupted. I think the people who represent Islam in the world have corrupted the meaning of it.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. Yeah, no, thank you for letting me have a quick chat. I'll give someone else a turn.
For sure, for sure. Okay, guys, if we want to continue this, then drop a 5. I hate to bring it there, but there's a way to just one's in the chat if you want to continue. That's a better pulse on the community, to be honest, because then one person, well, it still stands. Okay, we can have one more person up. Enonia, go ahead.
Hello?
Yo, what's up?
Oh, sure. Yeah, apologies. It's a bit late, and as you can hear from my accent, it's very, haven't slept much, so if I'm a bit slow right now, apologies. First, I wanted to ask a couple questions, just to try and understand
Tipo,
your
thank
sort
you.
of inner relation of this. What are your thoughts on, like, the idea of sort of collective unconscious, like some sort of idea akin to muses that, like, people kind of pick up on a strings or something like on a thread these ideas that seem to come from somewhere else. What are your thoughts on this?
I need you to clarify what you're asking a little bit better.
Yeah, it's difficult when you get on this esoteric grind kind of stuff.
I'm just saying a little bit. You don't have to
Yeah, no. You are right. I mean, you know the idea that like some. Oh gosh, there's echoing. Apologies. That sometimes it seems like a bunch of people sort of around the world are having similar ideas at the same time.
Right.
Or there's almost, I get a feeling, an idea when I see a piece of art that is deeply true, that someone has like drawn deeply from it, that there are like echoes of sort of deeper truths in it, even if they're not fully aware of it. And it seems like there's almost something being drawn from I don't know where exactly. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do actually. So I don't know if I believe in the idea of a collective unconscious as much as I think that I don't. The problem with the word collective is it means the aggregate of the individual, right? So, for example, in fascism, you have the analogy of a fascist, which is a bundle of sticks. Well, I call into question the sovereignty of a stick in the first place, whether it's bundled together or apart, right? We have to change our understanding of what the human essence is in such a way that accounts for the fact of why things are as apparently social and collective as they are. And when it comes to the question of, for example, like why are there these resonances at these specific points in time that appear to be shared by the population, why do our experiences seem to align so directly? I think it's because as what we call subjects who are continuously participating in the discourse of the world, we are drawing from the same rhythm of discourse, the same pool of it. And I think we're all very sensitive to it in more ways than we could comprehend. A lot of us like to think that our thoughts are our own, but in reality, there's a continuous, constant, and unending stream of transmission of the aggregate information of mankind, relatively speaking, to each and every individual all the time, right?
Yeah.
And moreover, in addition to the fact that just our common discourse is continuously being transmitted upon us, the very scaffolding of discourse is also being continuously transmitted to us, continuously in real time, all the time. And that scaffolding primarily consists in this fundamental referent of language itself that allows us to make meaningful sense of what existence is, what it means to exist, not only in relation to the shape and structure of discourse, but in relation to the very object of discourse in the first place. And it's this object of discourse which is the interesting thing to think about. What is the object of discourse? What is the literal, what is the thing everyone's talking about? Like if you think of some memes where they're like, nothing ever happens or something is happening. What is that thing?
Something's always happening, but yeah.
But what's the thing? You know, that's the most interesting thing to think about when you think about it, you know?
You are correct, though, by the way, on the point of the collective. So I just don't know how the words don't really flow
No, I
when,
understand.
because I have to get it across.
I understand, and it, you know, I think that when you think about it in that way, there's a lot of different. I like this idea. You know, I've been getting into music a little bit, so someone analogized a melody as a call and response. So, like, this is the part of the melody that's asking a question, and then this is the response. And melodies are just like questions and answers, right? And that's what makes melodies pleasing to us when we hear them. And I think discourse is the same way. There's always this opposing tension of what is it actually we're responding to. And it's not necessarily another discrete person's voice. It's this common implicit subtext of how do we actually react to the shape of this object that is continuously being transmitted to us, which is not a person, it's not a face, it's not even a specific chain of reasoning or discourse or logos per se, but is more like something Sophianic, you know?
Yeah.
Something that takes form accidentally as the consequence of our being, you know, collectively. And we're always engaged in a dialectic with that. We're always responding to it. It's always continuously impressing itself upon us indirectly. We're always reacting to it. We're always answering it. It's always imposing questions upon us that we're continuously answering through and by means of discourse. Like, and so I think that's why, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's why you have this resonance in terms of like, why do we come across the same things at the same times as a species right now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I have quite a few ideas, but it's interesting to see, because I feel like you are clicked on to what is going on in a way that most people aren't. It's also very heartwarming to see someone who's on the left who's actually somewhat spiritual, and also heartwarming to see someone who's religious who isn't just like doesn't even think about how their religion intertwines with themselves and the world and reality. And I just can't believe being a religious person and thinking spiritualism is like something silly to be mocked when like it's the fun. I don't know. Yeah.
I think the way to be tuned into the world is to not subjectivize. You have to stop seeing it as a relationship between you and the object. You have to stop treating yourself as a subject. You have to stop assuming that you are the subject of everything that's happening. And you have to, in a way, dissolve yourself into the thing. And you have to just accept that you are yourself defined by the way you're continuously reacting to this thing. And that if you ever want to affect it in any kind of way, you have to understand it's not two-sided, it's one-sided. I'm reacting to the aggregate totality of the world, always, everyone is. If I want to affect it, I can't treat myself as the subject of it. If I want to affect it, I have to, for example, turn my stream on and start talking to people. I can't just assume that the universe is choosing me or talking to me. Most people do think that, though, because most people have a relational understanding of discourse where it's about mutual recognition. But the key to being in tune with what's going on at all times is to just not seek recognition from the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to partly agree and partly disagree. I think you do need to drop the ego, but also I do think that at the same time there is a want from the universe to know us and for us to know them, and that kind of happens in that process. But there is that push. I mean, have you ever had have you ever read any Rumi, for example?
I'm a little bit familiar.
Well, I mean, all of this is like sort of love poetry about God. But it does sort of show this sort of interaction, this interplay between them, and that's somewhat been, you know.
But I think that I'm of the view that the interplay is. It's not that I think that the cosmos or God is indifferent to us as individuals. It's just that if you want to affect the world and how the world is reacting to things, then you have to understand that you are not uniquely a subject of world historical discourse, you know? If you want to affect it, you have to understand that you have to get your confidence from God for sure.
Yeah.
But you have to, I think the great thing about Islam or other Abrahamic religions is what it's basically saying is we're all equal before God, actually. We have an equal right to challenge and intervene in the discourse. If you are at peace with God, you don't need to get recognition from the discourse and assume you're the subject of discourse. You can just tap into the discourse and affect it.
Well, yeah. The question about what subject means, though, is like, you know, if you are wanting to be an instrument and that you don't view yourself
it's
I
not
think that's
about
probably
being an
important
instrument,
thing.
but it's about the subject of discourse is not the individual. The subject of discourse is ultimately the self-relation of our common essence, which it's almost like our essence is talking to itself, and we are taking that personally too much. That's the problem.
No, yeah, okay, yeah. I think, I guess as well, sorry, it's probably difference of what we mean by like personally, because I feel like I'm kind of a bit down the rabbit hole at this point, and so I've forgotten how like in well, I still I'm in my own head in relation to things, but like how, you know, just in your own head you get about these things. I do think a big thing that is not spoken about enough is like quiet and just like listening. I think this is, I mean, you know, pardon me for being conspiracy minded, but I think you might agree with this, that this is one of the reasons why background noise is just like pumped in like music wise all the time. It's just to kind of like numb ourselves to like hearing
sounds kind of
any.
believable.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of things to do. I mean, a lot of like Sufism, a lot of I mean, most of the mystics have a period of isolation, and then they, you know, happen. Same with the Sikh.
So
guy.
thank you for coming on. I just remembered something. Yeah,
Sorry,
I just remembered something, guys. By the way, every time I do an X Space, it's not recorded. It's on kick.com. I guarantee you, I'm going to delete this off my timeline as I always do. And then I'm going to be accused of wiping the space. Well, it's on Kick. It's just a clutter on my timeline. Maybe I'll keep it. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I feel like I like my timeline to be, let me see if they change the layout so that it's separated. No, it's directly on my timeline. So I will delete the space. But I'm not deleting a recording because the only recording is on Kick. So I just want to put that out to everybody. The only recording is going to be on Kick. So TPH is requesting, but I will be greedy and say if you want TPH on, you have to vouch for him by dropping a 5. Like it's actually a cost. TPH, you're good, but it's like someone needs to vouch for you. I'm literally just being fucking greedy. I'll bring him on. Go ahead, TPH. But this will be the last person.
Oh, all right, here we go. So, me and my buddy, who's a leftcom, have been having this argument for forever, and it's basically he always approaches me with the material class interest of the secretariat. He says this like sort of like a meme, like he just says it that way, and he says like, you
Material
know,
class interest of the what?
secretariat.
Okay.
So he's like, how can the leaders stay loyal to the proletariat if they get in a party and then in a state and now they're like a different subjectivity that wants to reproduce itself. And I say to him, like, you know, the revolutionary consciousness that brought them into the party is what will make them loyal to the proletariat
No,
as a
no,
whole.
it won't. So far, I'm not saying this is the solution, but so far in the history of communism, it's been monarchy. In the proper definition of monarchy, not in the right wing, conventional feudal notion of monarchy, but in the sense of a supreme ruler endowed with absolute power, basically, because that is the only way the universal interests of the proletarian class can actually find expression in something. And any multiplicity of individuals that are defined in any kind of way will inevitably, yes, acquire that distinction. Whereas this is why there was Oriental despotism. This is the reason. It wasn't because Tamerlane or Genghis Khan were greedy individuals who wanted all this power. The only way the universal interest that transcends the various divisions within society can become its own distinct perspective is literally by being a one leader, right? So all these divisions happened in the USSR. Plenty of people in the party became corrupted and arrogant and tried to elevate themselves above the masses. And that's why Stalin was Stalin. That's why he was what he was. And Mao is the same. And every communist state, you always have, successful or remarkable one at least, you have a notable, powerful leader. And between the period of Mao Zedong, or Deng Xiaoping, I should say, and Xi Jinping, you did not have monarchical type of authority, but you did have a lot of corruption, which threatened to undermine the very foundations of the CPC. And that's why Xi Jinping comes back as a kind of quasi-monarch, in a way. People think of monarchy, it's a bad word because we associate it with so many negative feudal connotations. But if we just mean it in the sense of the concentration of power into one ruler, ultimately, in the last final sense, so far, that's all we know of. I'm just being completely honest about it.
That's fair, yeah.
And when the CIA report that said, Stalin is not really a dictator, there's more like a collective leadership thing going on. That's actually why Khrushchev betrayed and got into power. It was collective leadership that actually led to the secret speech later, because Khrushchev was in that inner circle, right?
Uh-huh. Did you have anything else to add before I make the next thing?
I would say, any institution that defines itself separately and says, we're going to be the Supreme Council that just rules. It's like, well, that is creating a distinction among the masses that may not be a new class, but it is a different subjectivity that's being interpolated. That's true.
Right. And so I guess what I'm asking is, and I kind of have somewhat of an answer going, but like, what is the social or historical mechanism that continues the revolution actually producing communism?
The reason Hegel probably defended monarchy is because in a monarchy where the power's in one ruler, the delimitation of the social body or the body politic becomes infinite. Meaning, like, there's a supreme ruler, and ultimately there's a supreme ruler, I should rather say. There's also, of course, different levels of mediation, but ultimately there's one. And the supreme ruler represents an infinite permutation of how the body politic can actually look. Whenever you have a division of labor that says this is how it must look according to this form, well, you get a special segment of society that stands apart and separated from the rest because it's clinging on to this, while changes in the relations and forces of production inevitably engender changes. And that's why a monarchy is not really the rule of one man. It's the rule of one representation. But that representation, think about it like this. This is what's brilliant about it in a way. It's funny. I'm not defending monarchy per se, but I'm just saying this is the brilliance of why Hegel probably defends it.
For sure.
Everything is about mutual recognition. Okay, but in a monarch, the way society looks is only in the head of the monarch. It's not, for example, in how I see what the monarch sees. That is not absolute. You can't turn that into an absolute principle because the recognition of the sovereign to you is something that has to be continuously reproduced and vice versa. And the content of what that is can be presumed to be in the head of the infinite wisdom of the monarch, but you ultimately have no way of knowing what that is except the monarch because thoughts are invisible, right? And of course it's a bluff. Of course no monarch knows it all in their head and has it all. But even the screen that makes this invisible, it's only in one person's head, creates an opening to the infinite in a sense, because that could be anything. And it has to be continuously suspended in a relation of mutual recognition with the entire body politic. And that's the actual secret. The power is not in the head of the monarch, it's in the continuous relation between the monarch and the body politic of mutual recognition. When that's concentrated into one person as the authority, there's room for that to actually continuously change. But when we create an institution that's delimited, chartered contractually or definitely, this is the aristocracy because they're better, because this is their institution, then that becomes something apart from the relation of absolute recognition, mutual recognition that's suspended in time. That becomes like a fixed thing that, in a sense, bypasses the active dynamic process of mutual recognition that is continuous, right? One's in my chat if you understand what I'm saying here. It's like when you create a special segment of any kind within the division of labor that shares sovereignty in any way, you are creating something fixed. And someone, well, the monarch is also fixed. Okay, sure. But the head of the monarch is invisible. You don't know what they're actually thinking or what their will is or what their intentions are. And therefore, it can become totally and fully suspended in a relation with the body politic of mutual recognition that is living and active. An absolute ruler or tyrant is not a tyrant in our conventional sense of the word. That's actually someone who's purely defined by their responsivity to the body politic and that alone.
Okay.
I'm not so much saying I love monarchy so much, but I am giving charity historically to why that institution persisted as long as it had as the norm. And it wasn't even an institution, it was just the norm. Everyone understood this is just the nature of what sovereignty is.
Yeah, people don't understand different social existences, so I mean, you definitely got to make that clear. I guess so. To really boil it down, like that was good because you kind of explained how this would be, how that type of leadership would be sustainable. But I guess what I'm asking is like, in terms of the communist revolution, let's say like the productive forces are approaching, world DOTP, right? The productive forces are approaching a point where communism would have to start to be rolled out. It would be the natural thing. What's to stop I don't know, like Stalin or something, from just being like, nah, and then like canceling a couple of shipments and holding back the productive forces?
I think what a weak ruler ultimately does is they successfully open up divisions within their own society. When they cease to be able to unify their own society, when special segments within the society begin to fill vacuums that the ruler is supposed to. That is basically how you get the recipe for cliques and factions and Khrushchevs and so on. And leaders, I'm saying, monarchs can fail and have failed many times throughout history to be receptive and responsive to the calling of their era. And their fate was not very good. They didn't have a good fate. They were considered bad rulers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing guaranteeing a ruler will be good,
Right.
or will be bad. That's the thing.
I mean, yeah.
Hegel. That's why Hegel considers this like the realm of absolute freedom in a sense, because there's nothing actually guaranteeing whether the ruler will be good or be bad. It is possible a ruler could be a bad ruler, and in the event that they're a bad ruler, the consequences of that will be evident in the result, you know. And we have to be, and then that's where the dimension of responsibility comes from. And all the stories of heroism and the Homeric epics and poems, or even in the Shah and Shah, and all the secret history of the Mongols, those who take and shoulder the responsibility for the weakness of a ruler or the injustice of a central authority, historically they're called heroes. They're taking on and being responsible for, this is where we're at and this is why. And I'm going to take responsibility for it. Well, that's where the heroes come from, who themselves usually become monarchs in the myths and stories and so on.
Mm.
And Lenin was probably one such hero, was he not?
Yeah.
So
then, I guess the answer to that is like a militant proletariat that's ready for the process and pushing it
education
themselves.
is so important. Yes, but nothing guaranteed. There's no guarantee in anything. Nothing is ever guaranteed. It's just.
So then, what do you get when you have somebody like a Deng come around, and like class struggle is now like political mechanisms in the government, like that sort of changes things. So what
I mean,
what is
Deng
going
did not
on there?
change things. The material conditions changed, and Deng was successfully responsive to them. And the proof is in the pudding, you know? So there's more people requesting, and I'll give them a chance to come on. See you later, bro. Paloma wants to speak. Go ahead, Paloma. Paloma is missing now. We will bring on Spreader. Spreader, go ahead. They left as well. Well, okay, well, all right, the Spreader's here. Go ahead, Spreader.
Coof Spreader. I'm the Coof Spreader. Hey mate, how you doing? So I remember watching a video recently of yours, and you were talking about raising like legions of Albanians. If you had any success with this, and was it solely due to Fuentes's degradation of the of them, or any claims they have to, or any delegitimization of their claims to a European identity, or was it have you been thinking about this for a while and that sort of triggered it?
What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you were talking about raising Albanian legions, basically, like red legions, and you're quite passionate about this. So what made me think of it was, had you previously thought of this, and what influenced you to what influenced this idea of raising Albanian legions, and or was it just Nick's insolence?
Nick Fuentes?
Yes, because he was saying, "Oh, well, Nick's come online," and Nick was, talking shit on the Albanians, and then you were like, "No, we've got a place for you."
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well,
this is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't. I guess why not? I mean, like, if you're dissatisfied with the system and you're being excluded from Nick Fuentes' movement because you're Albanian, it's like, well, we'll take you in because we don't care about these things.
Yeah, true. So was just this legionary sort of rhetoric that you're sort of pushing? It sounded very like Hitlerist, like he's they raised the
I wasn't being politically correct enough. I should have said hordes because we're a Mongol Tartarian thing. I should say say hordes here, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, like if you read the battle reports from the Skanderberg Legion of the SS in World War II, they're horrible. They were not liked. They couldn't even put their clothing on properly, and they were likened to African soldiers, sadly. But have you had any success? Have you had any Albanians sort of coming to join? Yeah,
thousands. It's actually tens of thousands, actually. Anyway, we're gonna wrap up the space now because even I should sleep. I'm not saying I have to sleep. I'm saying I should, right? It's a normative thing. This space will be deleted from my timeline. It's not even being recorded. It's on Kick if you want to see it. It's on kick.com/infrared. That's where you can find it. And I will be live for 2 more minutes. Goodbye. Gorillas and Sons, infrared vision. Gorillas and Sons, infrared vision. I wish you guys boosted the Abdul El Sayed tweet way more. You guys like fucked that up. Like, what's going on, guys? Boost this tweet big time. You know. Let me find it. Yeah, guys, go like boost this. What's going on? This is like such a insightful analysis. I'll link it in the chat. Fix my Discord. Is on infrared.gg. It's there. What are you talking about? On the website, it doesn't work, really? Invalid link. Okay. What an insightful stream, guys. I'm not really a religious apologist, or it's called apologetics. Um, I want to put like into writing why Marxism is Islam right now for you, just so it's like simplified for you. So let's do MS Paint. And we'll wrap it up there. That's kind of the gist of it, you know? Stay tuned for the essay for more. I like to experiment with simplifying shit. Alright, guys, I'm wrapping the stream up. Goodbye. Bye-bye.